It's the night we've been waiting for. It's election night, and you're right where you want to be. It's the pregame. It's the tailgate. It's like college game day. We're in the parking lot right now in downtown D.C. with, well, what's soon to be a lot of drunk patriots here at the Heritage Foundation. In fact, our special coverage tonight is brought to you by the Heritage Foundation. Buckle up. The roller coaster begins right now. I'm Larry O'Connor, but of course, you can call me Larry. Thanks for watching our live stream presentation tonight across all of Town Hall's social media platforms. You're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Rumble, you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on X, or you're watching right there at the Town Hall sites. Make sure that you've got townhall.com set up in one of your tabs, but we've got ongoing election coverage there. In fact, let me show you what it's looking like right now. You don't need cable news. You know that by now. You don't need any of those other broadcast news outlets. No, take a look at this. We've got the map ready to go. We're hooked in with Decision Desk HQ. We're going to be giving you live blog coverage with all of the great superstars over at Town Hall across all of the Town Hall platforms. And of course, we've got this live stream going for the next 2 hours. We'll start getting results around 7 p.m. and we'll give you live reaction right here. We've got a ton of great guests from Heritage Foundation, including election law expert Hans von Spakovsky, the president of Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts. Sean Spicer is going to be joining us. He's been giving analysis on this election like no one else. He's coming in a little after 7 o'clock where we get our first returns, and it's going to be insane. And what do we have so far? Well, we've got some exit polls right now, and let's start drinking the tears, the lovable tears over at CNN, because they're already deeply concerned about what they're seeing.
It's a pretty dour mood in terms of the way people feel things are going in the United States. Nationally, only 7% of voters say they're enthusiastic. 19% say they're satisfied. Look at these numbers. 43% dissatisfied, 29% angry, 72% of the electorate nationally say they're dissatisfied or angry.
Yeah, 43% dissatisfied, 29% angry. I'm guessing you fit into one of those two categories. So let us know in the live chat right now where you sit. Are you dissatisfied, angry, or both? But here's the thing. I'm both of those things, but I'm also enthusiastic. I'm enthusiastic because I feel like we're going to have a definitive victory tonight. I feel like Trump voters are constantly underrepresented in the polls, and the fact that he's barely ahead right now in all of those battleground states tells me that there's a hidden voice of the unheard ready to be heard at the election box, at the polling place. By the way, one other quick analysis of these exit polls on CNN. Soak it in. It's just delicious.
But Donald Trump and the Trump era is very much upon us. We don't know how that's
I got to say, I think that's putting the best spin on it. I think when you see current voters saying that by a 3-to-1 margin that they are dissatisfied with the country.
Or angry, dissatisfied or angry.
Or angry. I got to say, I think that that's with the present conditions in the country. I mean, in conventional terms, it would be a miracle that Kamala Harris could win with that kind of headwind, and also with a president. Remember, she was part of the administration. The Biden-Harris administration was 41% approved, 58% disapproved. This isn't even close to the 50%.
But I want to be concerned here
let me just finish my point, which is just that if she is able to overcome those numbers and still win this election, then she has done a remarkable job of somehow separating herself that she's part of the solution and not part of the problem.
Oh, let me finish. You got to love that. All right, we're going to be dipping into the network's coverage, especially the delicious, angry, sad tears over on CNN, MSNBC as the night goes on. Joining us right now is Derek Morgan. He's the Executive Vice President at Heritage Foundation. And this is kind of cool that you guys are doing this party down here. What was the thought process?
The thought is to have friends from the movement here at Heritage to all watch the returns together and be able to react to the votes coming in and getting ready for game day, which starts, hopefully as early as tomorrow with the transition and a new day in America.
You think we might get results tonight? You're hoping. I mean, we're going to get results. You think we'll have it be definitive?
I wouldn't bet on it, to be honest.
Okay.
Having been through this a couple times, you have too. A lot of times it takes a little time to sort these things out.
And of course, for people who don't know, downtown D.C. is where Heritage Foundation is located, right by Union Station. But you're 3 blocks away from Capitol Hill and all of the congressional offices, Senate offices here, right?
We are, we're about 300 yards from the Senate offices, and we have a lot of congressional staffers here with us today as well. So it's going to be a good time.
No congressmen and senators, because they're back in their districts, they're back in their states, which is where they should be.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All the people who work for them and do all the hard work. They're in town.
That's right.
And and this room behind us is going to start getting full. And there's a bar right here. We
is.
wanted to get the bar in the shot.
Very strategic decision on your part.
Exactly. I've already got my Aperol spritz, although they're calling this a swing state spritz, which I appreciate very much. A little too Euro for me, but I'll
okay.
Listen, you are a bit of an expert. Everyone at Heritage is an expert, by the way. So you'll get ready for a lot of experts tonight, but specifically with immigration policy. Yeah. And first of all, you've worked in the realm for several years.
Some time, for a couple decades now. And in fact, I've seen such a huge sea change, because I remember back in the Gang of 8 days, about 15 years ago.
The first Gang of 8.
That's right. Yeah. And everybody knew there had to be comprehensive immigration reform with a big amnesty. And we held the line at the time and said, no, that'll just encourage more illegal immigration. So we've been battling for a long, long time.
Well, and Kamala Harris has tried to deflect all of the rightful blame for her own mishandling of the border, and of course Joe Biden's mishandling of the border, by constantly pointing to this attempted negotiated deal that sadly Senator Langford of Oklahoma spearheaded.
Yeah.
Do you think that had any traction, though? I know it was a fine talking point, and I know you guys were lined up against it and helped kill it. But what do you think? I mean, I know that was the attempt.
That was the attempt. It was kind of complicated for them to explain it. Oh, well, there was this bill and we would have supported it, et cetera, et cetera. Right. But you're exactly right. It was a bad bill. It would have essentially allowed amnesty on a small scale, and basically allowed a porous border up to, I think it was 4,000 a day.
Month.
4,000 a month.
Or no, 4,000 a day.
It was 4,000 a day.
4,000 a day.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Of the spear, though. You guys pushed back.
We thought,
sure everyone said this is a bad deal.
That's right. It was a phony deal.
Yeah.
They finally had to recognize politically that was a problem, because you were seeing the stream of people coming across, and they were going to do this and pretend like they fixed the problem ahead of the election. We just said, no, this isn't going to help the problem.
And border security has become a major issue. And it's really funny to me that every time Kamala Harris was asked about border security, she would all immediately pivot to immigration reform.
Yeah.
Like I'm smart enough, and I've been reading the stuff that you guys put out at Daily Signal, at heritage.org, to know that border security and immigration are not the same issue. You can have border security without having to do this so-called comprehensive immigration reform.
That's exactly right. The first thing you have to do is have control over your borders, and they don't have that at all. It's by design.
It's almost like they don't want to.
No, imagine that, right? Yeah. And they actually have an app now where they say, oh, well, crossings between the ports of entry are way down. It's because they're making it easy on an app to go through the ports of entry as an illegal immigrant and just get an appointment and then stroll on through to the country.
Yeah.
And who was the most opposed to all of this is actually legal immigrants,
right?
Who waited 10, 15 years to come into the country, and then they see this happening.
Basic fairness,
total breakdown,
basic law and order, and also the criminal element. The crimes are occurring in those neighborhoods. They're the victims of all of this crime in many respects.
Yeah, that's right.
So you talked about, game on transition starts maybe not tomorrow, but pretty soon. What do you think that looks like? I think a lot of people remember the first Trump administration, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but you know what? We're hopeful right now about what might happen, and we've got some experts here who would be part of that. I think advising on the transition at the very least. In the 2016, after Trump won, there was a lot of reticence here in Washington D.C. Some of the people who had a lot of experience, a lot of them were like, yeah, we're not sure about this guy. We're not sure about the administration, and the Russian collusion thing was looming.
Yeah.
I get a different feeling from people in Washington about the prospect of a second Trump term.
Much different. And, I think he was new to Washington. He's talked about this, the fact that maybe he didn't hire all the people that he would hire in a second term. In terms of people that are completely with the program. So I think it's going to be an opportunity for him, if he is elected by the people, to hit the ground running really fast, and to have people in there that are supportive of his program. And he's got to do all that because he's only got one term.
Right.
And so that's why it's so important.
That is an interesting, and it's feels like a new election. This is a re-election effort, though.
In a way,
we only have the one term. And of course, that means jockeying begins tomorrow or the day after, not just for the next term, but also on Capitol Hill. I mean, let's set the presidency aside for a minute. What kind of threshold are you looking for a majority in the Senate? I think it's baked in the cake that there's definitely going to be 51
It looks
Republicans
like it.
at the minimum, because you got West Virginia and Montana.
Right.
But then what are you hoping for coming out of the Senate? Because there's other states in play.
Yeah, you've got Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, all of which, if President Trump were to carry as a president, he's got a potential to take some coattails and to bring in some additional senators with him. I think the senators and the congressmen, when they come in, they're going to have to figure out a couple of things. Number one is the tax cut. What do you do with the Trump tax cuts? They really helped to rejuvenate the economy in his first term. He's going to have to get to those by year end.
In 2026, right?
At the end of 2025. So they've got to get it done this year. So I think that's going to be really high on the list. And then also, getting the border situation under control. That's because the people on these exit polls, you see it. They're worried about the prices of gas, groceries, and housing. They're worried about the border. And so particularly his supporters are. So he's got to fix those.
But the border is as simple as just putting out back all those executive orders that Biden reversed, right? I mean,
in large measure, yes. And, it's possible he's going to need some additional resources to be able to carry out his policies. But for the most part, I think just the attitude of saying everybody's got to do this the legal right way is going to really, is really going to discourage a lot of illegal immigrants. Yep.
All right. And then why you already gave us some of the Senate races that you're looking for tonight. We're going to get a little, deep dive as we're here because we're down here in the belly of the beast, doing 300 yards from the Senate. People forget, starting tomorrow, the race to replace Mitch McConnell begins.
Yes.
Today's Mitch McConnell's last day as leader, right?
Basically, yeah. They're going to have a listening session. It's going to be really interesting to watch.
We're going to ask all the heritage experts about this because this is fascinating and you're not getting this elsewhere. This conversation is a big deal in D.C. What are you looking at right now or what would be the majority?
Yeah, the three kind of people that are in the mix that are talked about the most are Senator Thune from South Dakota, Senator Cornyn.
In leadership right now.
He's a current leader in current leadership.
Cornyn,
Senator Cornyn, who had been in leadership, he was McConnell's number 2 for a time from Texas, and then Rick Scott of Florida. So it'll kind of be process of elimination. You get voted off the island. And they'll be deciding that over the next few weeks.
Thune and Cornyn, I think, is fair to say, are both kind of establishment guys, though, aren't they? Cornyn maybe a little more than Thune, but still, they're they've been there.
They've both been in leadership.
Scott's sort of the guy from the outside.
Scott's seen as more of the outsider. I think that's fair, and it'll be a fascinating race. There's also a lot of regional loyalties. You've got a Midwesterner from South Dakota. You've got a Southerner from Texas. You get the interpersonal relationships. We're not talking about a lot of people here. We're talking about a little over 50 people.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interpersonal relationships. And I think, Senator Cornyn's raised a lot of money this cycle.
That's always
all of those things come into play. Absolutely.
Right. Well, are you going to stay here all night? Are you going to be?
As long as I can.
Are you allowed to have cocktails? I mean,
eventually.
Eventually. All right. We're real fast because one of the earliest states we're going to see returns on. We'll see North Carolina pretty early. We're going to see Virginia. Virginia closes at 7:00, and I know it takes a while to get those votes in Fairfax County, Virginia, all the time. But is there a certain threshold margin that you're looking for out of Virginia? That sort of I don't know if Trump can carry Virginia.
Yeah,
but he lost by 10 points last time in Virginia. He lost by 5 points in 2016.
Yeah.
Based on that margin, will that tell the tale in other states for you?
I think so. Yeah, because they tend to the waves tend to kind of move in the states. I think you also want to look at New Hampshire.
Oh yeah,
that'll be a really interesting one to look at, and then North Carolina should end fairly early too, and it'll be a really close one. So you have a lot of high turnout there.
But if it's not close.
If it's not close, that'll be
something.
If it's not close and it's for Trump, then that's a really good sign for President Trump.
Derek Morgan, have a good night. Thanks for kicking things
off
with us.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thanks for hosting us here at Heritage
Our
Foundation.
Pleasure.
Very cool stuff. And that's one of the fun things about being down here is that you've got people who are working here, but they were working in, the last administration or 2 administrations ago, and they've worked here in town on all of these issues. So that's pretty cool. Also, very fun to see so many people already joining us live. Thank you for joining us. We consider what we're doing here kind of the tailgate pre-show because we don't have results yet. We don't have any states. The polls are still open places, but we're going to get you hyped. Hey, Ricky Upchurch, thanks for the super chat there. We are ready to rumble. We are ready to rumble in a big way. It is going to be a great show, and I hope you guys are pumped up and enthusiastic about what we're doing and where the country is right now. Robin, thank you for that super chat. Aloha. You're in Hawaii. My gosh, it's like noon there or something, isn't it? Kamala is not the solution, and she never will be. I voted for Trump, and I'll be celebrating his win from Hawaii. Oh, mahalo for that, Robin. That's very exciting. And Melekalikimaka. That is the extent of my Hawaiian. That's all I know. But I like wishing people Merry Christmas. And maybe Tulsi Gabbard, your fellow Islander, is going to make a big difference in this election. All right, let's take another look. There's a great video here. Everything about Kamala Harris is fake, as you know. So I want you to see this video. There was a photo op that she did at a headquarters. This must have been in D.C. because she flew here. She's been, swampy. She's having her viewing party tonight at Howard University in D.C. Explain that to me. She's from California. She's only lived in Washington for 6 years, right? Why isn't she going back to California? Why isn't she doing a whole thing out there at Golden Gate Park with the backdrop? You know why? She doesn't want anyone to relate her politics and her past with where she comes from and who she is, a San Francisco liberal. So she's in D.C. She goes to campaign headquarters, and she's supposedly having a phone call with somebody, you know, one of the people, one of the top staffers who's crunching the numbers for her and telling her what the early numbers are looking like.
How you doing? Have you voted already?
Give me a second.
You did. Thank you.
She's reacting. Wait, but did you see what happened there? She got this thing and then she showed the phone to show something that she's talking to, but the phone was on camera. She's not even on the phone app. She's having a conversation with a picture of herself. Everything about this woman is funny. Please, my God, have you been praying all day? I've been praying all day. We cannot do this. We can't have 4 years of this. I don't think we can make it. It's insane. Absolutely insane. That's Kamala Harris for you. All right. There's one man who can probably help us explain whether we're going to have 4 years of this or whether we're going to have 4 weeks of election counting. His name is, if you don't already know it, you'll hear it a lot over the course of the next several weeks. He's Hans von Spakovsky. Hans, yeah, say it with me, everybody. Hans von Spakovsky. Han, come on in here. I want to make sure you're in the shot. Now, Hans not only used to work in the Justice Department, and you worked in the specifically in the
Civil Rights
Division,
right.
but you focused on election law and
yes,
didn't you? And by the way, Hans was also a former county election supervisor in Fulton County, Georgia. Is that the right title?
Yep.
Fulton County, Georgia. I think we're familiar with that.
Before all the trouble.
Sure. Yeah. So Hans, oh God, are there any data? I mean, we already got the story out of Pennsylvania that all the machines were broken and they kept the that happens though, right? Sometimes, and they've kept the polls open until 10 p.m. But have you seen any reports today that give you sort of a red flag that makes you worried?
Well, what I have to say is that I'm cautiously optimistic.
I keep hearing that. I want irrational exuberance, Han. I don't want cautiously.
Well, let me tell you what's different between today and 2020. Okay. We are seeing the same attempts by Democrats through litigation to, at the last moment, change the rules. And a good example of this is how in Georgia, Cobb County, which is one of the biggest counties there now, said all of a sudden that they were going to count absentee ballots that came in after the state mandated deadline.
Right.
And this was
before you even get into that, because it's very clear that it's the state legislature who sets these rules.
Exactly.
Right. With the signature, and it's law. How did judges just come in and willy-nilly decide, oh, no, we're going to do this instead? How is that even possible?
Well, it shouldn't be, but you don't always have judges who follow the law. But the point is, look, in 2020, there were many attempts like that to change the rules at the last moment. And unfortunately, those changes were made often by judges and others. And quite frankly, at that time, the RNC and others weren't ready to go in and litigate and fight that. That is completely different now. The RNC has really geared up.
Yeah.
And in this case, we've
won a lot of these battles, right?
Right. They went to court, and then in fact they appealed that decision to the Georgia State Supreme Court. The Georgia State Supreme Court said, you can't do that.
Right.
You can't change the law.
So we've already had some of these victories ahead of time, which is really where you need to fight them, right? That was another problem is that we tried to fight all those fights after Election Day, and judges are like,
no, you have to do it right away. Or look, just last week, great victory at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Virginia.
Yeah, the Justice Department goes to court and tells Virginia, oh, the aliens you took off the voter rolls, you have to put them back.
Right.
And fortunately, they emergency appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court comes back and says, no, Virginia, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But that attitude actually tells you a lot about what's going on here, because the Justice Department, it's their job actually to prosecute aliens who illegally register vote as a violation of federal law, instead of going to Virginia and saying, send me the names of those people so we can prosecute. No, they say put them back on the list.
Keep them on there so they could vote, even though we know they won't vote because that's against the law, but they should still be ready. Yeah, exactly. Right. We're already hearing from certain states, and they're the same old players here. They're telling us, oh, don't expect any results for like 10 days, 2 weeks. And don't worry, that's normal. Why is it only normal here? That's not normal in, Argentina or in some other foreign country.
It's because they have the wrong rules in place. And frankly, a lot of times they don't have very good election officials. I mean, look, compare that to Florida, which Florida was so embarrassed by what happened in 2000 that they changed their rules, their laws, their regulations, the way they handle ballots, and now they get results, usually election night, very quickly.
And it's like the third most populous state in the country.
Exactly.
So it's not a question of numbers.
No,
there's a will to do it right.
Yeah, and a willingness to put in the kinds of rules that, on the one hand, maintain security, but on the other hand, make the process more efficient.
Based on the early, I keep hearing about early vote numbers. And are you okay with early voting, or would you prefer not to have early voting?
You know, from a policy standpoint, I don't like it because people are voting sometimes before debates and things like that.
Before
And I'd rather people vote on election day. But on the other hand, it's better than voting with an absentee ballot that you're trusting to the mail service or putting it in a drop boxes.
Right.
Yeah.
So based on the early voting numbers, everybody's saying Republicans are outdoing every metric that they've ever had in the past.
Right.
Is there a concern that cannibalizes the day of voting, or is this actually, I keep hearing from the experts that getting those early votes means that on election day, for get out the vote efforts, you don't have to worry about the people who have already voted, and now you can focus on new people that maybe you wouldn't have been.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good analysis. And, I don't know if you saw this story, Larry, but, people were really worried about North Carolina because, the part hit by the hurricane is a predominantly Republican area. It was I think about a fifth of the vote. And apparently the turnout there has been higher than the turnout in the rest of the state. So people, despite what happened to them, have really
swimming their way to the.
They have really made an effort to get to the polls. And that's a good thing.
That's great. All right. And so now, as things start to transpire tonight, is there anything that you're that you're focused on or paying close attention to with your expert eye?
I would tell you the key, I think, to getting results fast or delayed is going to be the margin of victory.
Yeah.
Because if the margin of victory is large enough to be larger than, for example, the number of outstanding absentee ballots, because some states have put in these stupid rules that allow absentee ballots to continue to come in after election day. But if the margin of victory is larger than the number of absentee ballots outstanding, we'll know who won.
They don't have enough people to fill out the fake absentee ballots that they could be doing on there. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, well,
not
maybe
specifically like that.
Yeah.
But say it, Hans. Too big to rig. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but if the margin of victory is like 0.5%,
then
so then we may not know until not only all the absentee ballots are in, but if there are a large number of what are called provisional ballots that have to be investigated so you can figure out whether they should be counted or not, then it could delay results.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm glad I'm not in your shoes tonight, although I'm not real happy being in my shoes either. But you're cautiously optimistic based on what you've seen.
Yeah, because overall, we're in better shape in 2024 because many states passed good reforms. That includes North Carolina and Georgia.
Well, then while I've got you here, because I mean, all you Heritage guys are all you've worked, you've done it, and now you're here to lend your expertise. Should Trump win, it should be a priority that we don't have to go through another election night like this, where we're having all of these questions, we're having all of these challenges. I know we don't want to federalize these elections; it's still state by state. But are there guidelines that can be instituted that, for a bare minimum, like you said, Florida is now the gold standard? Can the federal government say, listen, you guys can do this, you guys can do that at the state level, but the bare minimum needs to be what Florida's doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there could be some of that, but let me tell you something that if Trump won, he could do directly. Within the past month, both Texas and Florida have sued the Department of Homeland Security. Why? Because DHS has refused to give them information when the states want to check on the citizenship status of registered voters, even though they're obligated, DHS is obligated to do that under federal law.
So that's just policy. They can do that.
Yes. Yeah. Trump could order that the first day he's in office.
Also, and what about the non-citizen? It took J. Christian Adams at his group to sue Pennsylvania for non-citizens on the voter rolls. I think Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch, sued the state of California over non-citizens, or maybe it was LA County. They're still slow in doing this. Can't you just say federally, again, you don't want to federalize the elections, but can't the federal government say all non-citizens need to be purged from the voter rolls, period? That's not even a question.
Well, yeah. And, they did try to pass a bill in the Congress.
That requires a bill, though?
Well, there's a lot that the executive branch could do right now. like I said, getting DHS to help
Yeah.
and getting DOJ to actually prosecute.
Right, but if
these cases.
if the Attorney General of California says, "Yeah, thanks for the information, DHS, but we're not doing anything with it," or the Secretary of State, then what do? Can't DC say, "No, you got to do"?
Yes, and they can sue them under various provisions, including the National Voter Registration Act, for not cleaning up their voter rolls.
There you go. And repeal motor voter, but that would take an act.
That would take an act of Congress.
But that is, I mean, all of those non-citizen voters who were registered in Virginia, that all happened at the point of DMV.
That is exactly
That's the
right.
most insidious law that was passed back in the 90s.
Yes.
Ugh. See, I know these things because I've talked to this man for like 15 years of my life. Hans, it's always a great time talking.
Thanks for having me.
And I know how busy you're going to see a lot and hear a lot of this man over the course of the next 10 days. Hopefully, though, it's all going to be you coming in saying, "Yeah, we got it right."
I'm hoping it's a very boring night because that means everything went smoothly.
That's right. All right. Hans, thank you, sir.
Thanks. All
I
right. Bye-bye.
appreciate it. That's just another one of the great experts that they've got here at Heritage Foundation. Hans von Spakovsky. Say it with me, boys and girls. Hans von Spakovsky. Yeah, it took me about a year to get that right. All right. How are we feeling? Are we good? Are we feeling good? We're feeling good. Let's take a little bit more of the, this is a great moment here. CNN goes down into Virginia and talks to people who are waiting in line to vote, trying to find out who they're voting for, right? It's your typical stuff that you see on cable news. Remember how I told you yesterday that there's something different going on this year? There's a different feel. There's a different energy. Take a look at this, and I think it validates everything we were talking about yesterday.
There were many who said that they were planning to vote for Trump or they had voted for Trump. However, when it came to sharing their views on camera, they didn't want to. One woman saying that she worked in the Army, her coworkers assumed she's voting Democrat. She didn't want to be on television saying that she was voting otherwise. Another woman saying she just didn't want her neighbors and friends to know that she had decided to vote.
This is very blue Northern Virginia. This is Democrat rich Northern Virginia. And you've got people saying, "Yeah, I'm voting for Trump." "Oh, will you tell us on camera?" "No, go away, CNN." In fact, here, they actually did it here with MSNBC. It's a beautiful.
Out today. What's your name?
I'm Krista. I just want to contribute, hopefully make a difference.
You make up your mind. You got an hour and a half to do so if you haven't yet.
Okay, real fast. I hate to, put you on the spot, but this is Philadelphia. See the, dirtbag Eagles sweatshirt back there? Let's face it, Eagles dirtbags. I hate to, speak in generalities, but when we're talking about elections, we're talking about demographics. You're in downtown Philadelphia, very important state. You've got this young African-American woman. Who do you think she's voting for? Right? If you had to guess. All right. So now watch what happens.
Yeah, I'm still thinking.
Are you really? Who are you voting for?
I really don't know yet.
Oh, stop it.
I don't know.
All right. Everybody's got the right to privacy, and I'm going to give you yours. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much. I wouldn't say either if somebody put a microphone in my face in line, guys.
See, but that's just not true. I mean, let's think this through for a minute. Why would you be reluctant to say who you're voting for if you're that woman and you're voting for Kamala Harris? There's no social backlash for that. There's only one scenario where that woman would be reluctant to say who she's voting for. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. You know it. I know it. The American people know it. Everybody knows it. My bow tie knows it. By the way, do we like the bow tie? Could I hear it, please, down in the live chat? I need thumbs up or thumbs down on the bow tie, because there was a lot of anxiety about this decision here. A little bit more on this video.
I doubt that, actually. If you were not, I think you take the mic, and I think you give them all your thoughts. Hey, AJ.
Maybe they want to say. You guys want to say who you're voting for?
No.
See, I told you. It's just a random guy thing. What brings you out?
Those are all Temple students. They're students at Temple University in downtown Philly, and they don't want to tell MSNBC who they're voting for. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Well, if you're just joining us live, and there are many of you who have just joined us, we are live in downtown Washington, D.C. at the headquarters of Heritage Foundation. We're on Capitol Hill, and we're here for an election night party. The bar is right over there, by the way. So you're going to be seeing a lot of people getting cocktails and then wandering around in the background. Who knows what might happen? In fact, you might see a scandal transpire right before our eyes. That's what I'm hoping for. That's why we have the room in the background. And even I'm having a cocktail. By the way, I'm sure Heritage will be real happy that I took a little sip of that cocktail before I told you that regardless of what happens in tonight's election, you know the left is going to do everything it can to sabotage conservative reforms. That's another reason why we're here at Heritage, because this is the tip of the spear to fight to make sure the next administration and the next majority in the Senate and the House get things done. American patriots need someone fighting for them in our nation's capital, someone with the plan and the courage to take on the deep state. Fortunately, there is such a group. It's the Heritage Foundation. Heritage Foundation is dedicated to promoting conservative policy solutions, pushing back against dangerously liberal policies, and restoring the American dream. They've been defending our country for over 50 years, and they're ready to serve as your voice in Washington. So if you would like to join them in their fight to save our country, you can activate your Heritage Foundation membership. Just go to heritage.org/join. You see it right there? There it is. That's heritage.org/join. We are live right now at Heritage Foundation. It's election night. We got results. We got analysis from the policy experts. I want you to stay informed on the issues that matter most, not just in what motivated people to vote this year, but also the most important issues and how we're going to be able to tackle them going forward with whatever form of government we've got. Regardless of who's in the White House, Capitol Hill is where things happen. Heritage Foundation right across the street from them. So make sure that you're here. Everyone's talking about the bow tie. You are? So what do you think? Bow ties are cool. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Brad thinks I'm looking dapper, and I appreciate that. And Jay hates bow ties. Well, you know what, Jay? Fine. You're allowed. Also, if you're wondering why I didn't shave, because I got my game face. Got my game face, and Meredith said she gave me permission to go one more day without shaving. I didn't want to break this streak. Oh, apparently she did not give me permission. All right, that's a lie. Fake news. Fake news. Maybe if you guys are nice, Meredith might make a cameo before the night is over. But before she joins us, let's look at one more video here, and then we'll bring in our next guest. Take a look at this one. This is in Arizona as CNN was talking to voters.
You just voted for Donald Trump. Walk me through why you cast that vote.
Yeah, so just seeing what's been happening in the past 4 years, I voted Democrat the past 4 years, and I'm really disappointed in the administration, how everything has been going. I was in the mortgage industry for quite some time, and that hurt us pretty bad. I lost my job because of it. Dealing with the recession and everything. And I know that everyone's saying we're looking for solutions from every party, right? But in actuality, the solutions they came up with were no solutions. It hurt us even more. Now you have to have a son with parents and daughter. All the families get together to be able to even afford a home or even afford a rent.
So the economy is the number one issue for you?
Absolutely. It impacts every one of us.
Did you vote for Biden in 2020?
I did. I'm sorry. I did. Yeah, I did. I was deceived, but I'm a walking example of how people can change their mind. You just go with the evidence of, what benefits you and your family. So Biden has not been beneficial to my family, at least.
All right, Mike Gonzalez. Mike Gonzalez is a. Well, let me get the title right here, if you don't mind. Oh, for crying out loud, senior fellow. Because when you're a senior fellow and it's got a name attached to it,
as I'm a chaired fellow,
you got to make sure the name is right. The Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for National Security and Policy. Gosh darn it!
Thank you.
And author of several books.
Next Gen Marxism, the last one with
Marxism,
Catherine Gorka.
Favorite one, yes. Catherine Gorka, now the chair of the Republican Party.
Yeah, and the book is selling very well. Came out 6 months ago.
As well, it should, because Marxism. This voter in Arizona voted for Biden. I love that he said, "Who'd you vote for last time?" He said, "Biden." Sorry. Thank you. We'll accept your apology because you voted for Trump this time. And he said the economy is the number one issue. And I don't know about you, but I thought it was refreshing that Trump actually adopted the language. He basically said this is Marxism, what Kamala Harris is proposing. It's like he read your book.
Well, he held it at one point. I know because I have a photo of him with it, with Next Gen Marxism. Look, what we're seeing is a kind of a cultural Marxism. And going back to the economy, obviously, Biden and Harris were told again and again before they went on their spending spree, this is going to be inflationary.
Yeah.
In Biden, I remember very well going on camera and saying this. Nobody thinks that. None of the economists I talked to think this is going to be inflationary. and we got the worst inflation in 4 decades, Larry.
Well, and then they lied. Then they said there's no inflation, no inflation. And then they said, oh, well, it's temporary inflation. Right. It's a transitory was the word they kept using.
And then Harris says it's price gouging, which she called price gauging at first. And it's like so economically illiterate, because everyone knows that inflation is one thing: too much money chasing too few goods. The price is rise.
Right.
That's it.
And her only solution was prosecute people. When isn't it remarkable that no one in the media ever challenged her and said, well, can you give us one concrete example? You're going to go after these big corporations for price gouging. Can you give us one example of it? And they never did.
Well, of course not. I think that's the biggest story out of this election. When all is said and done, nobody knows who's going to win. We're going to really take stock of what happened with the media. All this stuff with the Washington Post, with the endorsement, non-endorsement, with Hugh Hewitt, one of your competitors, but one of the most mild-mannered guys that you ever walking out because Jonathan Capehart was so snide to him.
Right.
Whereas Hugh was just reporting the news.
Yeah.
About so I think the media and the way it has behaved is going to come under the magnifying glass coming forward.
As well, it should. Well, that's why we have so many people watching our live stream tonight instead of going to the old media.
Right.
We've been able to transcend that. Joe Rogan, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson.
It's liberating.
It's a new world out
liberating.
there. I just want to be clear here, though, because we're a town hall, which is part of the Salem Media family. So Hugh is our colleague when we're doing our streaming, but on radio, he's not really my competitor on radio either. I'll be honest. I mean,
okay.
We trounce him on the radio. He's not. No one listens to him.
Hugh, I love you.
Hugh,
it's on me saying that.
Hugh,
it's on me saying that, Hugh.
All right, so Mike, we've been talking about a couple of things. We've already talked about the border. We've talked about some election laws, focusing on the Marxist policies of the left that don't just get it. Because here's the thing: you can already hear it. People are saying, oh, the reason Kamala lost is because she defied her Bernie Sanders roots. She should have gone all in on this. So Democrats are going to go further to the left, I think, in reaction if she loses. What's that fight going to look like in Washington?
Well, I think woke has already been a killed by this election. Well, I'm not saying killed, but it's been exposed.
Yeah.
Because if Trump wins, obviously this is a huge victory against wokeism, and for the policies that would eliminate wokeism. But Harris has run a campaign running away from all her previous woke policies.
Right. Yeah.
Everything she embraced.
Well, that's what I mean.
She abandoned.
That's what she's going to be criticized for, though, because that's what the left does. They always say, you weren't left enough.
But I don't think that means going back to Bernie Sanders. Actually, is not woke. Bernie Sanders is an old Stalinist Marxist. He is an unreconstructed Marxist. He's not a cultural Marxist. He's an economic Marxist. Yeah. What Catherine Gorka and I wrote a piece for The Blaze saying about a month ago is that Harris has demonstrated in the policies that she has embraced that she does fit the definition of a cultural Marxist. And we won't go through many things that she has done, from starting with the fact that she embraced BLM.
Right.
She embraced
justice reform.
Defund the police. And she
identity politics,
all of these things, right?
And the gender politics.
They're now letting families decide what to do with the children.
Yeah.
But she has run away from those in the 3 months that she's been campaigning for president. Yeah. So if she wins, first of all, the Senate has to hold her feet to the fire and say, no, ma'am, you didn't run on these policies.
Right.
You cannot be, Biden 2.0, because Biden 1.0 really was all about wokeism,
right? Yeah,
from the beginning.
Oh yeah,
not because he believes in it.
No, but the people who put him there.
But a cynical embrace of something he had never believed in 50 years of public life, because I think he saw political advantage in doing that.
One of your other books and a lot of your writing that you do it here, and you are a fantastic writer, if I may say. That I've interviewed you many times. You sort of blew up. Your last name is Gonzalez.
It is Gonzalez.
You're from the Irish part.
I was just in Ireland, by the way.
That's a great island.
My God, they drink a lot of Guinness.
They do.
Oh my goodness.
Some stereotypes are there for a reason.
Yes. I drank a lot of Guinness. It was great.
You've been speaking out. You were one of the early voices speaking out, not only about the Black Lives Matter movement and all of that stuff, but just racial politics and identity politics in general.
For years.
You have embodied the pluribus unum and sort of and Martin Luther King's dream of looking at your moral standing,
Absolutely.
and who you are and what your ideas
we
are.
can have no truck with it. Yes.
And Kamala Harris, and I think the Democrats, they tried one more time. You know, she changed her accent depending on the audience she was talking to.
I have seen the preacher. I heard the preacher
Yes.
accent.
If she loses, do you think that we've turned the corner on that with DEI policy?
Oh, completely. If she loses, then President Trump there's a long list of things to do. We have to recapture the institutions that we have lost to the left, the universities, the museums, the Smithsonian. We have to go after the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And that one is symbolic. That is not a long-lasting thing, but they have been completely biased in their coverage of news.
Oh, gosh, yes.
NPR has. And so, Jefferson said that it is tyranny to force a man to pay for opinion that he does not agree with. To force 50% of Americans who are conservative to pay for NPR is the definition of tyranny. And this time, every Republican president since Richard Nixon has tried to defund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This time it must be done.
That would be great. And we're okay defunding Big Bird, because last I checked, when I go to Target, there's a lot of Muppets merchandise that's making tons of money.
Exactly.
They'll be Big Bird will be fine without.
They're not going to go away. They can rely on their membership model.
Yeah.
By the way, when I listen to you in the morning and you go, I hate to tell you this, you go to commercial. I toggle.
That's when you flip to Hugh Hewitt.
I toggle. I do NPR, Hugh Hewitt. I do a bunch of things.
Well,
I do this. I do the junkies. I do sports.
Gonzalez, I hate to, I can't call you on your hypocrisy, but you can't say, when we go to commercial, you should listen to the commercials.
I come back to you.
You're getting it for free. You should listen to our advertising.
I come back to you. I come back to you right away.
For instance, Heritage Foundation. I've been reading lots of ads for Heritage Foundation. You tune away when I do that?
In the morning.
Unbelievable. I thought you were a capitalist.
Larry, in the morning.
Give me my free radio, but I don't want to listen to an ad.
I only have a half hour, Larry.
All right, fine. We'll allow it for now.
I listen to you mostly.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
You and Mercedes and Patrice and
Julie. Thank you.
Julie, all three of them do a fantastic job reining you in.
Yes. On the border, quick. There's when Trump won last time, there was some resistance in this town with regard to his plans for the border. There was even from Republicans.
That cat is out of the bag.
It's gone, right?
That's gone. That's gone. And I think the whole country just
all it took was 3 years of Biden-Harris.
Whoever wins tonight, the whole country is scratching its collective head, thinking, why did they do that? Why did they open the border? And there are many reasons, right? It could be all of the above. It could be the fact that they don't believe in borders. They don't believe in self-rule. They don't believe in sovereignty. They believe they have so bought the oppressive narrative of the cultural Marxists that they see those coming in as the oppressed. Whatever. It could be something else. It could be sheer stupidity. But nobody knows why they did it. Because this is, to allow 10 million people in, upwards of 10 million, nobody knows.
There's no turning back now when it comes to
I don't think
the
so.
border.
I don't think
Trump's mandate is loud and clear.
No, no.
Everyone's in line.
Oh, completely. But even whoever wins, I don't think that the American people, just like the American people think wokeism is garbage, DEI is garbage. The corporations are running away from this. Only the Biden administration supports this anymore. Just like that, the border issue is settled.
Yeah,
settled.
Mike Gonzalez, great talking with you. Thank you
very much.
Long time listener, big time.
Best of luck tonight.
Thank you. Best of luck to you as well. And listen to the commercials now and again. They're very entertaining. People love our commercials. You believe that guy? I'm kidding. It's great. It's great to be here with all the listeners. Is there a camera moving? Kevin's here, by the way. He's not here, but he's here. Kevin, are you there?
Hello.
Has our shot been drifting? Because I feel like the camera's sliding as we go.
Just a little bit, but it's fine.
I can move it if we need to.
Nope, no need.
I can do that. Or are we okay? You're okay with it?
Yep, we're good.
Oh, look, they set up a receptacle here for Trump voters. Look at that. See that garbage can? Fantastic. It is Jeb. Jack Dake is wondering if that's Jeb, but Jack Dake is watching. Hi, Jeb. That's my father-in-law, by the way. That's Jeb. Jeb came down to Heritage with us. We couldn't do a show without Jeb. Yeah, that's going to bother me. I'm going to have to move back here. I don't know what. Oh, there we go. I don't know why the camera shuts. All right. Is that better? Are we good? All right.
Looks great.
You are watching Town Hall's live coverage of election night. It's sort of the pregame. We don't have any results yet, right? In fact, let's check. Do we have anything over at the townhall.com decision desk? We have nothing. Oh, wait, we have something. What is that? We got some general election numbers in Kentucky and Indiana. Did we know that? Did we know precincts were closed there? They were. Oh, look at that. I guess 6:30. All right. So far, we're looking at some good numbers here. 6% in. We've got Trump with 63% in Indiana and Kamala with 35%. And over in Kentucky, even more so, we've got 69%. That's with 4% of the votes counted. All right. So far, and look, Trump is winning in the popular vote as well. So there's our first ring. Oh my God, we got returns, everybody. And we're looking good. By the way, I want your predictions. In the live chat, can you give me your predictions on what you're expecting? And we'll try to highlight them whenever we can tonight. My prediction is, and I usually don't make predictions, but I've been all in on this for the last 24 hours. Trump with a definitive victory. In fact, I'm looking at over 300 electoral votes for Donald Trump for a couple of reasons. But most importantly is we know the polls are wrong, and they're always wrong in one direction. They're wrong against Republicans and especially Trump voters. So that's what I'm looking at. Let's take a look at, or this was earlier today on MSNBC in Wisconsin. This is kind of funny. Take a look at this.
A lot more people that I've seen on social media saying that I've been a Democrat since I was a kid. My parents are actually on their way. They've been Democrats their whole lives. They voted for Trump as soon as a lot more.
Yep, they voted for Trump. I'm seeing a lot of that too. I don't know if you're seeing that on your Facebook page or on your other social medias, but that's a trend. I'm not seeing a lot of people who said, I voted for Trump in 2016, I voted for Trump in 2020, but I won't take any more. I'm voting for it. Right? That doesn't exist. But you're seeing a lot of people who said, I always voted Democrat, and this time I'm voting for Trump. We'll see. But I'm feeling good about it. All right, let's slide in here. We got another. This is like our tailgate here where we're doing the pregame. We're waiting for the game to start.
Yeah.
Ryan Walker, now you're with Heritage Action.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like explain. So slide in. It's all right. Don't worry. I know.
You won't bite.
But we got one. Well, I might. I'm hungry. Can we get some food here? Oh, look at there's people. There's already. See, I told you we'd have drunk patriots here. No, I'm kidding. We don't need. But can you how about one of those Aperol spritzes? Yeah, thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Wait, who do you work for? For you. Oh, there it is. Oh, I like that answer. Because you got there's staffers here, right? You got House staffers, Senate staffers. They don't want to say who they work for because it might get ugly. But I want you all to look in the background because these people are the ones who actually write the bills that get voted on. All right, Heritage Action is different than Heritage Foundation.
Correct.
Because you guys actually go, well, you tell me, what do you guys do?
Yeah, we're different in a couple of fundamental ways. We are a grassroots activist organization first and foremost. So we have 2 million grassroots activists across the country that follow, pay attention, and engage with us on a regular basis. Yeah. And then we take a subset of that and we train them. We call them Heritage Action Sentinels. We deploy them throughout the country and key states.
I like how that sounds.
And
do they get armor and any kind of weapon, a broadsword, perhaps?
Yeah, an education and tactics and tools that they can take to into an election cycle or into lobbying their state legislators or federal legislators.
And there's more. You tell me, but isn't there now allowed to be more integration with groups like yours and some of the campaigns? Maybe integration is not the right word there legally.
Collaboration.
Yeah,
maybe.
You tell me.
Yeah.
What are we able to do?
So the FEC ruled this year. It's a fascinating decision that they made, but they essentially said on Get Out the Vote efforts that groups like Heritage Action and others in the conservative movement, a couple of TPUSA Action, Turning Points Group.
I think AFP also did some of this.
AFPI,
it's always when they've got an action at the end of it or something like that.
Right, exactly. So we're able to more coordinate so that we're not double tapping. We're not going to the same homes. We're not in the same states doing the same activity, that we aren't burning voters out with our message. And so we're able to bifurcate it.
So when all of these guys over the last week have been saying, the Republican early vote numbers, look at all of this response that we're getting, that's because of these efforts, right? Where have you guys been on the ground most this time?
That's exactly right. And it's a good question. So Heritage Action's been on the ground in Arizona and Georgia. Okay. We understood back last year when we were planning for all this that we needed to protect the Sun Belt. If we didn't win the Sun Belt fighting chance in the blue wall, as they call it, we wouldn't have had the opportunity. And so we've been registering voters in Arizona and Georgia, identifying conservative voters, not just standing on the street corner with a clipboard. We're going to homes of people that we know will be conservative voters when they go to the polls.
If there's a pickup with a gun rack in the driveway,
right,
you guys knock on that door.
If they have a hunting license, we're knocking on their door.
Right.
If they have a fishing license, we're knocking.
I'm only half joking. That's the way you do it. And people will be shocked that there's like gun owners and people with hunting license notoriously don't vote oftentimes. They sort of stay out of it and keep to themselves.
Tens of thousands of them. And interestingly, Arizona and Georgia in 2020 were decided by 11 and 12,000 votes respectively.
Right.
If you change that dynamic, which we've registered 80,000 people across those two states and we're turning them out to vote.
Right.
If you change that dynamic even a little bit, right,
it's a game changer. And I've been telling our viewers all week or for the last couple of weeks that there's a hidden story in these polls. And you tell me if I'm wrong, but all these polls that we're seeing are of likely voters.
Yeah.
Well, if Heritage Action is down there on the ground registering new voters, by definition, they are not likely voters, right? They qualify the likely voters as people who have voted before, most recently.
That's right.
So all those new registrations don't show up in the polls.
And we're seeing this playing out in early vote data. You cannot beat the data and what's in front of us right now. The early vote data shows that low propensity voters made up 25% in Ohio, 27% in Montana, 47% in Nevada, 47% are low propensity.
Are those Republican registered low propensity? Yeah. Okay. So here's the question. You register them all, then how do you follow up to make sure they vote?
Good question. So Heritage Action, we actually employed a unique tactic this year. So we sent a text message to everyone that we'd had a conversation with, and they could, or an email or a digital ad that was geofenced to their home. They click on that and it immediately auto-populates a calendar event in their iCalendar or their Google Calendar or whatever.
Actually.
And it sends you, if you accept it, it sends you a couple of alerts, 2 days before the election, the day before, and the day of.
Yeah.
And so their phone's constantly reminding them, hey, it's election day.
All right. Now this sounds very cool, but here's the real stunning news. Correct me if I'm wrong. Democrats have been doing this really since Obama, haven't they?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And
this is we're new to this game.
Well, especially on the early vote and absentee voting.
Yeah.
We went through 2020 and there was hesitancy to do that.
Yeah.
Understandably so. But now we fundamentally changed the calculus. I mean, we're ahead in North Carolina, we're ahead in Nevada, we're ahead in Georgia, we're ahead in Arizona.
Yeah.
And we've cut the lead for Democrats in half in Pennsylvania.
So when you're seeing the numbers, and setting aside the early voting stuff, have you looked at the exit polls yet today?
Yeah, I've looked at a little bit.
Anything stick out to you?
Well, if you look at all the battleground states, the big 7, Trump's leading in, I think, 5 of them by a couple of percentage points. That's probably within the margin of error in these exit polls, but he's leading by 2 points in a lot of these states, tied in Pennsylvania, down in Michigan, which I think a lot of people were expecting.
Michigan's a tough one. Yeah.
Michigan is tough.
They also just passed some new voting regulations in Michigan, I think, that sort of make it more challenging.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your overall mood right now before some of these results come in?
I'm optimistic.
Don't you say cautiously optimistic, because we're going to do a drinking game on that.
No, I'm optimistic. I've been through this process. I was here in 16. I was here in 20. Well, I was on Capitol Hill in 2016. Here in 2020, and so I just know how these things all go. And but I'm very optimistic.
4 years ago, were you feeling the same way, or were you already sort of like, yeah, it's going to be a tough one tonight?
4 years ago, I thought it was going to be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we saw the early vote. I mean, the early totals coming in from Florida and stuff sort of gave us a little bit of hope in 2020, all to be sort of diminished. This year
3 days after election
fundamentally different. I mean, the sentiment on the ground is different. The early vote game that we've had employed is ground altering. The conservative movement is committed this year, and it really does seem unifying behind Trump in a lot of ways. There are certainly, folks.
Isn't it amazing considering everything they threw at him and all of, if anything, I think that it actually coalesced more people around him.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Yeah. You saw, and the movement that he's built. I was having a conversation with some of my colleagues earlier. His closing video showcased Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Elon Musk. That is a cohort and a dynamic of people. It's like a Mount Rushmore of current political stars.
But it's real diversity, intellectual diversity.
Yes.
But they coalesced around. Well, that's the other thing. This has been, from at least in my opinion, from the Trump perspective, his campaign has been incredibly idea dense. It's been very policy dense, and the other side, it's been about personality, her personality, and dragging down his personality. But they don't talk about policy much.
Oh no, they don't. She has no agenda. You cannot articulate, other than her stealing no tax on tips from Donald Trump. You can't articulate a policy plan that she has. So I think Trump's been policy heavy. He's come up with fascinating tariff ideas, tax ideas. I mean, the proposals keep flowing.
If somebody wants to be a sentinel,
yeah,
what can they do? What should they do?
HeritageAction.com. All the information to sign up and become a member of Heritage Action's on our website.
Brian Walker. Thanks,
Larry.
man. I appreciate it. Good
Thanks for
stuff,
having me on.
and that's very exciting. Of course, I'd have you on longer, but you know how Brad Devlin is. That guy. Oh my God, he's like, go, let's bring Devlin in because he's become such a superstar now. No, you got your big podcast at Daily Signal, and now slide in here. Come on in, Clay. I know we've known each other well. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Everyone knows Bradley Devlin because of his brand new podcast at the brand new Daily Signal. You guys are like reborn over here. Daily Signal's always been strong, but now the new book, the new stuff. Are you happy? You enjoying yourself?
Oh, incredibly happy. Yeah.
Anyone on Capitol Hill is like you're like on a waiting list to sit down with this guy on your podcast. It's very cool.
You're overstating it, but please, if you want to join the wait list, like hit my line instantly.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, you talk to my people first. Like you got to go through Kevin McMahon.
Yeah, exactly. No, Kevin McMahon, great groomsman.
Now, that's right. Devlin just got married, and our own Kevin. Everyone in that they love Kevin.
He's a handsome fellow.
Well, we don't let him be seen very often.
He's a handsome fellow.
When we hit 500,000 subscribers.
Are you afraid that Kevin's going to make you look bad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we let people see him on our 500,000 subscriber celebration. And the stash is it's intimidating.
It's intimidating.
The Kevin McMahon mustache.
And so when we started this new show, I thought I should probably do audio only because
that's right. Well, that's what I did for 10 years, and then they dragged me.
And then they dragged you into it.
No, you're a handsome man.
No, but it's
look at, and he's putting the comments on it. Yes, Kevin is cool. Sure, he is.
The doctors did a really great job with your whole face remodeling.
Yeah, it was really just the hair, but I appreciate that. Son of a. Yeah, actually, we can't let you go any further. You got to do your Trump. You're famous now for your Trump. When did you begin?
I don't for all the stupidest things I do.
When did you begin your Trump impression?
You have to remember when President Trump came into office, I was 18 years old.
Oh my God.
My adult life has been dominated by this man.
So in college, were you guys doing were you doing a contest? You could do it?
I started kind of working on it in college, and then all of a sudden I just started doing it around DC friends. They're like, that's really good.
So if Trump wins in a landslide and he can show up, 11 o'clock tonight and claim victory, what will that sound like? What will that look like?
Kamala Harris is a loser. I'm the big winner. Laura's laughing. I got Laura laughing over there. But we're going to point at so many different people in the audience. It's going to be insane. We're going to give thanks to Susie Wiles and Chris Lasavita. We're going to talk about Carrie Lake and Sam Brown and Bernie Moreno. All great senators.
All the down tickets now.
All great senators until I want to get a border wall built, and then maybe they'll do something bad. Maybe they will do something bad. Who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? But frankly, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to win big. I mean, I think he declares victory either way.
Oh, that's true. I think that's baked in the cake.
If he's up, he's going to declare victory.
You've evolved the Trump. It's actually got because you're adding the growl a lot more.
Yeah.
In the thing, because I don't remember you doing the growl as much as you're doing now.
As much as I'm doing it. Well, there's rally Trump where he's like kind of fired up.
Yeah.
And then there's I don't think that's gonna work. Like John Bolton, you're fired. The soft, relaxed. But I think he's going to declare victory tonight, and I think it's going to put a lot of people in a really interesting situation because I think.
Scarborough's going to go nuts tomorrow morning if he declares victory tonight. Scarborough's is ahead.
Well, and you've seen Bannon, for example, has been saying he should have done it in 2020, and I think he should do it in 2024.
He did when he gave his the East Room address.
Yeah, but that night, and. If he does that without races being called, I think regardless, you're going to have a bevy of legal challenges. I saw one scenario, some doomsday scenario where it's 268, 270, Harris wins after the trickle in mail-in ballots at the very, very end, right? So we're counting through Thursday, Friday, and then all of a sudden, Florida files a lawsuit saying that they screwed up the census.
Yeah, that's right.
And
which
so
they've admitted. Not Florida. Right. The Census Bureau admits that they screwed
up.
And
naturally, like you and I, no election can be normal. We just go instantly to the doomsday scenarios, which is
good for you.
This is how Hakeem Jeffries could potentially become president.
Oh God. Oh God. your generation, if you may, because you just admitted that you were, 8 years ago you were 18. This is sort of the bro vote that everybody talks about. These young conservative men in their 20s, and when I was your age, it was Reagan youth, they called us Reagan youth. I was actually way younger than you when Reagan was president. But by the time I got there, when we were in the 90s, they referred to us as Reagan youth. But it didn't seem to have the same kind of energy and sort of joy for this thing that you guys do. I love that you guys are unabashed. What is that all about?
Yeah, I mean, I think to be a young person and be a conservative, like Vivek Ramaswamy talked a little bit about this during his RNC address. I mean, it's inherently countercultural.
Yeah.
I mean, and like the reason that punk rock music today sucks is because it's not fun anymore. It's like just a bunch of grievances against an establishment where it's like not American Idiot anymore. Like, well, like I'm gonna kind of laugh at myself and laugh at the establishment while it's happening. Yeah, I mean, I think Trump has been really creative in reaching these voters, not like hoping to bring them into the corporate media fold and doing interviews there, but actually going to where they are, going to where they're getting their media. And for guys like you and I,
Jeb fell.
Jeb fell.
Jeb. All right.
Like the stakes couldn't be higher because the corporate media is on its last legs, but they will feel vindicated if Kamala Harris wins tonight.
Right.
And so, like, how much power does this alternative media structure actually have? I mean, that's really being put to test to the night.
There's more on the ballot tonight.
There's more on the ballot than just politicians. I mean, for me, it's all about what's the future of American media? Is the corporate oligopoly just going to continue to ram candidates that they favor down our throats? Or are we going to actually, proclaim our independence from these corrupt stewards of American politics?
You mentioned Vivek. From your perspective, and Brad Devlin, you're going to speak for the entire generation that you represent here. At least the conservative sort of bro vote, right? Vivek obviously is a fan favorite. JD, is he up there?
Yeah, I think so.
That you're looking. Well, how do you square? Because here's from my perspective, I like Tulsi Gabbard, like RFK, I like the energy they're bringing, but I also know that they are politically of the left, right? And so you have trouble sort of squaring that circle? It's like, yes, they're here. Yes, they've got the energy. Yes, they're endorsing Trump for big picture reasons. But on a granular level, next election after that, they're still liberal, right?
Yeah, I think they are still liberal. I think there's coalescing behind President Trump because people fully understand the power of the establishment and the power the establishment has, not only how day-to-day business gets done in Washington. I mean, you and I hear about this all the time, but also like just the general attitudes, right? Like if 235 media executives each control the media appetites of the population of San Francisco, then that's not like a healthy media environment. And so as we move forward, I think it's really important for young conservatives to not only like just buy into the heterodox authenticity, but actually say, okay, like there's an epistemology, there's an anthropology here. And like people ask me all the time, like you're very pro working class, very pro private union. And you want to see workers step up and their wages increase, and you want to see them to have a fair shake from the corporations that they work for.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you Democrat? And the first is, okay, the life issue. And then the second is the entire worldview of the Democratic Party, even if you think that there are some interesting policies coming from people like Ro Khanna, is built on a false and like worldview that is antithetical to human nature. It's built on a false anthropology and a false epistemology. And so we've got the gateway drug, which is this motley crew of individuals that have supported Donald Trump. And now like JD Vance has been doing a great job of this in his long form interviews, which is going back and backfilling the worldview.
And now let's get shit done.
Yeah.
He said epistemology, so he's serious. Real fast, Bradley, let's do this together since you're a big podcast. Where do you want people to see the podcast? You want them to go to YouTube? You want them to download the audio? What do you prefer?
Listen, you can
Daily
listen.
Signal?
You can listen on any major podcast service.
Right.
If you want to go watch, check out the Signal Sit Down on YouTube.
Yeah, it is. It's worth watching. The lighting's nice. I'm a big fan of lighting.
Me too.
You want to do this with me? We got a race
Sure.
called. Look at this. Our first state, Kentucky, for Trump. It's 100% called now by decision desk. We're like, that can't be 28. That's got to be Kentucky and Indiana to get combined, right?
A little
For him to have
bit.
28 electoral votes. But there it is. That's exciting.
That is exciting. I mean,
Congratulations.
we're going to be up late tonight, of course. I think so.
We're 4 minutes after 7, and we've got a state called. That's good.
Kentucky and Indiana, they
There
both
they are.
a
They're
lot.
solid red now.
Indiana started closing at 6, and then they closed the other half of the state at 7, and same thing with Kentucky.
Were there
so.
Senate races in there? Oh, Indiana.
Indiana, we've got Banks.
There you go. Banks is the victor in Indiana.
Is that yeah, that's determined.
Yep.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that's not a shocker whatsoever. The question
And there's
is
a whole lot of red in the House seats as well. Every House seat in Indiana has now been called for the Republicans.
The number one question your audience should be asking, though, is okay, like Republicans might be picking up seats in the Senate, but what are they going to do about the majority leader race that happens after?
You know, we are talking about that. We're quickly, because we got to get Lori in here. Sorry, Lori, but you know how Devlin is.
You introed me with that. Now you're acting.
No. The Senate majority fight is going to be bloody. It's going to be ugly starting tomorrow. Where do you see it headed? We got Scott, we got Thune, we got
Cornyn.
Even Cornyn. Is Cornyn going to make a play for it?
Yeah, I mean,
I know he's going to try.
Cornyn's declared. He's spent 6 years outside of leadership as a member.
Yeah.
I think that really kind of blackpills you on how McConnell has run the conference. Cornyn's been open, to his credit, to reforms that Senator Lee and other senators have been pushing. Roger Markle, for example.
See, I didn't know. This is why I'm asking you.
And so here's the thing. I think that we're probably going to end up 52, 53 seats when this is settled for Republicans. And when Republicans have 52 to 53 seats, well, that means that there was meat still left on the bone with a fundraising advantage for Democrats. That fits with Cornyn's profile, frankly. Former fundraiser, from the state of Texas, a lot of money in play.
So whoever can bring the money for the next.
Thanks. I can bring the money for the next election. I'm not worried about this fundraising gap that we had in this election. I can rectify that, as well as I have standing with a lot of the establishment members. So that's a scenario that advantages
53 means Brown, Ohio goes. Now, what if we're talking 54? If McCormick wins, if maybe Hovey or Rogers
wins, the bigger the delta, I think, in 2024, especially with a new crop of senators who are so attached to the MAGA movement, I think the more conservative and the Senate's business will be, as well as the more concessions that these new senators and conservative senators can get from establishment leadership.
And that means Scott? That means,
maybe.
Or is there a dark horse? Is there a senator we haven't even heard from yet?
Well, I mean, Daines would be the dark horse candidate, but Daines has already apparently, it's been reported that Daines brokered some sort of deal with Thune. So if Trump wins and you have a delta of 55, 56, then whoever President Trump endorses is likely to be.
Well, Trump's going to say, this is who I want.
Yeah, and that's likely going to be the next Senate leader.
Right, thanks, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate the Trump impersonation. I appreciate the deep dive into DC stuff. I appreciate you not calling me an old man. He's very young. That bothers me. Lori Reese, how are you?
I'm well.
Nice to see you. Come on in here, and let me get the mic set up here, because Devlin was all over the place. We need to, oh, sorry. Meredith is fixing Jeb.
Yeah, you got to take care of
Meredith,
Jeb.
say hi to everybody. Overwhelming, wasn't it? Border security and immigration is your wheelhouse. This is what you do. In fact, give everybody your credentials so that they know you know what you're talking about in terms of your past roles in this endeavor.
Yeah, so 28 years in this issue, 2 tours at DHS, most recently in the Trump administration as the acting deputy chief of staff at DHS.
And watching what Biden did that first 6 months, it must have just been driving you insane, knowing the repercussions, knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah, we knew they were going to be radical, but they were faster and did even more than we could have imagined. And just ran over this country and Americans.
People, whenever there's a new administration and there's a lot of promises made, and I think that it's pretty clear that Donald Trump has a mandate on a couple of things, including securing the border should he win tonight or over the next couple of days. But people wonder, okay, how long will it take? How quickly can the border be fixed?
The border itself can be fixed very quickly. Allowing the agents to do their jobs and enforcing the laws already on the books will go a long way.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Enforcing the laws that are already passed. Yeah.
The part that's going to be a little bit harder and take longer and require a lot more resources is the internal enforcement, interior enforcement, and finding so many of these millions who Biden and Harris let in.
Yeah.
Starting with the terror threats, the aggravated criminals, the aliens with final orders of removal, and finding the missing children.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. How exactly do you even try to do that?
Well, HHS, Department of Health and Human Services, is responsible.
300,000 plus children who have just disappeared.
Right.
Oh, heartbreaking.
And so it is HHS's job to place these children with sponsors. And so those sponsors filled out an application. And
then disappeared.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of fraud, a lot of repeat addresses, a lot of bogus addresses.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these people need to be thrown in jail for this.
Now,
And-
I'm old enough to remember Mitt Romney in 2012 sort of running on the idea of self-deportation,
Right.
which that made sense to me. You cut off the benefits, you start arresting people, you start prosecuting employers who are hiring people who shouldn't be hired, and suddenly people say, "Oh, well, we better get out of here."
Right.
How realistic is that?
It is real. I say there's basically 5 things an illegal alien wants. They want to enter, they want to stay here, work here, send money home, and bring or have children here,
Right.
family here. You shut those off, and they're not going to want to stay. And so I think sending money home, the remittances has always been the toughest nut to crack. Enforcing the employment laws would be the second toughest, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got E-Verify, we have the tools,
But it's not
there's a
nationwide, right? In fact, there were some Republicans who stood in the way of E-Verify becoming mandated.
yeah, I mean, the requirement that you have to check a verification of anyone, even U.S. citizens,
Yes.
is a law. The
But it's the
E-Verify,
I-9 is
that's a
all it
paper
is.
I-9, right? The E-Verify is still a pilot, if you can believe that. It's not mandatory. And so that's what really needs to be used more and enforced.
What about benefits? Is there like a judicial jurisprudence, Supreme Court law that has decided that someone's in the country, regardless of their status or their legal status, we have to provide them certain benefits? Or
Well, I mean, there's some at the state level, there's some at the federal level. Bill Clinton, of all presidents, signed a law in 1996 that said you had to have been here for 5 years after getting a green card before you become eligible for federal welfare benefits. Now, the Democrats have been chipping away at that,
Yeah.
over the years. And then there's state benefits. So a lot of this falls to the states, and states are now, just the past couple of years, starting to get more comfortable introducing immigration legislation and passing bills to make it more difficult for illegal aliens to reside in their state. If they all go to California,
go to California
so
or New
be
York
it. But
or-
at least, Oklahomans and Texans and Floridans, et cetera,
Ohio.
are more secure.
Well, that's the other question. The issue with Springfield, Ohio, became obviously a big issue in the campaign. Part of it because of cat and dog memes, but it is a very real issue that I think most Americans are heartbroken over and very confused about. How is it, you can get 30,000 migrants who were given temporary protective status, all showing up in this little Midwestern town? How do they get there? What can the town do about that?
I think the web of NGOs and the money on the left would just blow our minds if we can ever uncover all this, if Trump should win. It's not just the NGOs and the cartels working together to bring people to the US, but then it is resettling them in communities across the country.
It sounds like an illegal immigrant industry.
It has truly become an industrialized complex worth billions of dollars. And unfortunately, a lot of the NGOs doing this are faith-based organizations,
Yeah.
Catholic Charities, Lutheran Immigrant Refugee Services, HIAS, the Hebrew equivalent, Church World Services, etc. And they've grown addicted to this federal grant money. And in some cases, they make more off the federal government and grants than they do in charitable donations.
Wow. So, and that's one other question on this. Whatever the Trump administration does on day one to sort of try to fix this problem, and a lot of it can be done through executive action, obviously, because we saw it reversed on
Right.
executive action. There's going to be a court fight immediately.
Yes.
There will be judges that lined up. There will be. So what does that look like? And are they equipped? How do they fight that and fast track it? Or does it get bogged down for years?
Yeah, the left was very effective at the lawfare during Trump's first term. And so, but some of it, like returning to remain in Mexico, that is something that he has already said. One of his first phone calls is going to be to the president of Mexico and say, look, you need to stop sending them north. And we're going to re-implement this program.
And the judges can't. And that falls under national.
That
security and
law
foreign policy. The president has jurisdiction.
Yep, Congress passed that law in '96, and it says Secretary may do that.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. So are you excited about tonight? How are you feeling?
I'm cautiously
Oh,
optimistic.
there it is again. All right, everybody, take a drink. Cautiously optimistic.
I didn't realize that was a drinking game.
It's the buzzword here at Heritage. It's like, what did you guys like?
No,
before you-
I didn't.
whenever Larry asks you, just say
I
cautiously
did not get that
optimistic.
memo. I
All right.
didn't.
All right. Well, I am enthusiastically optimistic.
Okay, good. And I don't have a drink.
I'm not
Good.
cautiously about anything. Lori, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great stuff as always at Heritage. You guys kick butt. Can we say kick butt about Heritage? I think we're allowed to say kick butt. All right. Speaking of Heritage and kicking butt, let me tell you this about them. Holly Stimpson. I know you.
As a soccer guy, I like the idea of kicking butt.
Let me just say that real fast. I am legally obligated to say this, but you will like this. We're live at Heritage Foundation. On election night, bringing you results and exclusive analysis. In fact, hang on, Cully, look at this. We got more results. Can we look at this? We got Indiana in, Kentucky in. We now have South Carolina in. We got Florida leaning. We got Virginia leaning red. Look at this, Cully Stimpson. It's very early numbers, less than 1%. All right.
477
I'm
votes.
sorry I even showed you that. It's done. I'm calling Virginia right now, people.
Stick to your day job.
Poor Jill Stein.
Yeah.
Look at poor Jill. She got 6. Florida is leaning red, 41%. And we can call Florida, can't we?
No.
All right, you're right. All right, but the Electoral College right now is looking at, they haven't updated that number. Hang on, stand by. 35. No, that's House. Hang on. All right, Electoral College is 28-3. Kamala got her first 3. She got Vermont in there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's all I got. Let me get back
Feel
to
the
this.
burn.
We got your results, exclusive analysis from our policy experts. Stay informed on the issues that matter most. Subscribe to the Heritage Foundation to stay informed in the fight for America's future. That's secured.heritage.org/subscribe. You have that one? No. Just go to heritage.org/join. Heritage.org.
You know this Navy guy right here.
Oh no, Spicer is bet. You know what? We're live right now. We're not doing ads. Well, we do our ads live, Sean. They pay more for that. Regardless of what happens in tonight's election, the left will do everything it can to sabotage conservative reforms. We know that. Sean Spicer is going to do some ballroom dancing for us later, so stay tuned for that. You're going to want to see it. So you want to read it with me?
Yeah.
You're not going to pay anything
Larry's
more for this.
Acapella.
Page is at onlyfans.com.
This is my OnlyFans page. I'm taking off the bow tie later. American patriots need someone fighting for them in our nation's capital, someone with the plan and the courage to take on the deep state. Fortunately, there is such a group. Say it with me. The Heritage Foundation. If you want to join them in their fight
like a Heritage Foundation
to save our country. He's already drunk.
Club soda, baby.
You're not doing a briefing tonight. There's no reason to drink. Is Jim Acosta coming back?
Yeah,
Is he? I bet he is. He's talking to the ladies. If you'd like to join them in their fight to save our country, you can activate your Heritage Foundation membership by visiting heritage.org/join. Heritage.org/join. All right.
Get a gift for your family.
Sean Spicer joins us.
But get something for her, nice. A Heritage Foundation membership.
In about 5 minutes. All right. I'm talking to Cully Stimpson now. He's much smarter than you.
No. Two Navy guys.
That's right. We're all, and I'm a Navy dad. Does that count?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Cully Stimpson, former, Navy, as we've already mentioned, also former Pentagon.
Yep, DASD, Deputy Assistant Secretary, JAG, former federal prosecutor, Chief of Staff 3 times.
Let me get the whole title here.
What a bore.
Deputy Director at the Edwin Meese III Center, Manager of the National Security Law Program, and Senior Legal Fellow, Senior Advisor to the President. I'm glad you're here. And thanks for hosting us here at Heritage.
No, we're delighted to have you.
The president has been talking about the military a lot. Former President Trump, now hopefully future President Trump 47, has been talking about the military a lot. He's been the highlight of his rallies. And he talks about the direction the Pentagon has taken with regard to woke policies, DEI policies, a lot of the stuff that gives the impression that our fighting forces are not focusing on being the best military that can kill our enemies and focusing on other things. What can be done there at the Pentagon? What needs to be done in your
Well, first off, and this is not a brilliant observation, personnel is policy.
Yeah.
And so if you get a Secretary of Defense who's focused on the lethality of the force, if you get service chiefs who are focused on building the best equipped, trained fighting force the world has seen, you eliminate all this social rot in the Pentagon and you focus like a laser on those things, Larry. I can tell you as a man who's been in the Navy, who wore the uniform, whose father and grandfather wore the uniform, whose family wears the uniform, your daughter serves proudly in our military. That's what we want.
Right.
We joined for a reason.
That's why you joined.
We joined for a reason.
Make me a badass who killed the bad guys. Yes.
We want to defend the country with honor and dignity and not be part of a failed social experiment. And that's the key.
All right. And there's this impression, though, that there's this layer of upper management. Maybe they're flag officers, maybe they're civilians who have critical roles at the Pentagon, who will resist that, who will push back on that because it's institutionalized. Is that the correct impression, or is it really just new commander in chief, new SecDef, everything fixed?
Nothing's that simple at the Pentagon. I worked under Secretary Rumsfeld. He said working in the Pentagon is like being a dog. One day is like 7 days. 1 week is like 7 weeks. 1 year is like 7 years. So it always takes a lot longer than you think it's going to take.
Yeah.
And so, yes, admirals and generals serve with distinction, but they know who the commander in chief is. But the bureaucracy and the blob is the blob. It takes a long time to get things done in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
But a strong Secretary of Defense, strong service secretaries, and picking the right people in flag and general officers will set the tone. We need people like Pete Pace. We need people who was a Marine general, who was a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We need bold leaders who focus on sharpening the sword and lethality so that we don't have to go to war, so that our adversaries are afraid of us.
You were also very critical at the time, and rightly so, of not just the nature of the Afghanistan pullout, but the lack of accountability afterwards, where people were like patting themselves on the back as if it was a job well done. Do you feel that has still gone unexplored and will a new commander in chief and a new SecDef reopen that case and say what happened here, and let's start having some accountability?
I think there's so much to do going forward that they may put together a study team over here on the side, but there is so much.
You get a charge ahead.
Look, you have the CCP arming up to the point after the third Congress party eyeing Taiwan.
Yeah.
You have North Korea in an unholy alliance with other bad actors. You have Iran, which has had some of its proxies degraded substantially, thank goodness, in bed with a lot of bad actors. And you have Russia doing what they feel like they can do. And so we don't have time, really, to go back and spend that kind of, because look, power is evanescent, right? It goes away over time. It's inevitable. And so you have to spend your bullets, you have to spend your political capital wisely, because you're only going to have a short period of time with the Hill and within the administration to get your things done. And Trump will be a one-term, he'll have 4 years.
Yeah.
People will say he's a lame duck president from day one. He won't be a lame duck president, but he'll have a limited period of time to get some big things done.
Okay. Put on your other hat here, because you've been spending a lot of time recently focusing on these Soros-funded prosecutors across the country who have undermined law and order and defied state law in just letting criminals walk the streets. You literally wrote the book about it. Remind me the name of the
Rogue Prosecutors.
Rogue Prosecutors.
How radical Soros lawyers are destroying America's communities.
And just turned into a really stunning looking documentary.
Thank you.
Over at Heritage, and you can get it at Daily Signal as well.
Yep,
Really
and on
good.
YouTube.
Tonight, George Soros, sort of the poster child,
Gascon.
George Gascon, LA County DA. He's going to lose by 30 points, it looks like. Even Los Angeles is fed up with it. They're recalling the Oakland or the Alameda Berkeley.
Pamela Price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a big story in this election. Trump nationalized it, and there are problems at the DOJ and the FBI, certainly, but this really is a local issue. This is really something that needs to be done at that level, because these prosecutors, state prosecutors, whatever, they're all handled in local elections. Are you watching that tonight? Is this a big
time?
deal?
Big time. I've already written several, he's won. No surprise. He lost. It's a miracle he survived pieces, depending on the outcome of the election. Because look, the DA is the gatekeeper to the criminal justice system. It's not the mayor.
That's right.
It's not the governor. It's not the president. It is the local county DA.
That's right.
And she gets to decide who and who does not get prosecuted. And even though there's only 70 or so these Soros bought and paid for rogue prosecutors, that accounts for 68% of America's population.
Yeah.
So it's real. Your public safety depends on who your DA is.
These, we call them Soros-funded, and they are legitimately.
$50 million in direct spending
Yeah.
and about $1 billion in indirect spending.
And honestly, the motives don't matter in the long run. The fact that he's doing it is bad enough. But do you have some insight into why he has done this, why he has spent all of this money through these shadow organizations to put people in position to wreak havoc on the streets of this country?
Yeah, and that's why our first chapter in our book goes into the origins, playbook, and belief of this movement. They believe the entire criminal justice system is systemically racist, and that the only way you can ameliorate the stain of slavery is to reverse engineer and dismantle, that's their word, the criminal justice system. And the way you do that is you eviscerate the adversarial nature of the criminal justice system by replacing law and order prosecutors with pro-criminal, anti-victim, cop-hating zealots. And that's what they've done.
And Kamala Harris was the DA of San Francisco. She talks about that like she was a prosecutor. Her track record was not very heavy prosecutorial.
No, and in fact, she was actually a pretty bad prosecutor in the sense that she didn't turn over evidence to the defense in hundreds of drug cases, which the appeals court then sent back and let those people free. She was not a particularly good attorney general. But the one point that people should need to remember is that, and we detail this on page 99 of our book, is that Kamala Harris, when she was the attorney general and the senator-elect, was none other than the co-head of the transition team for Kim Foxx.
Oh.
The first Soros bought and paid for road prosecutor in 2016. And she wrote a 12-page report, which is the roadmap for how the road prosecutor movement should play out. And did it focus on? Yeah, exactly. It metastasized like kudzu. It just grew everywhere. But did it talk about how you get rid of criminal gangs in Chicago or how you get rid of? No. It focused on equity and diversion and all this other stuff.
People think of Heritage as being, we're here in the nation's capital. You're literally across the street from the Capitol building and the Senate office. You think about federal legislation. You guys are very much involved in these areas in everyone's backyard.
Totally. And look. Most people don't realize that DAs handle 90% of the crimes in this country. The federal government, the 94 U.S. attorneys, only handle 10% of the crimes in this country. So the First Step Act, that was great. Heritage was behind it, for most part. But that affects 10% of the crimes prosecuted only by the federal government. So the law and order stuff, the murders, the robberies, the rapes, the child abuse, that all gets handled by local DAs. And there's 2,300 in this country. These are low visibility, low dollar races, Larry. And people, just like they learned the hard way that you better pay attention to who you vote for your local school board, you better pay attention to who you vote for your DA. That's why Steve Descano in Fairfax County, Boober Biberaj, the DA down in Arlington County, these are Soros bought and paid for road prosecutors, and that's why crime has gone up in their communities.
Buddha got booted out. Descano survived. But these fights continue. Heritage is part of those fights.
We are.
Appreciate it. Navy had a tough loss last week, but you circled Army Navy. This is going to be a hell of a.
It's going to be an amazing game. It should be awesome.
Navy's going to beat Army.
I'm cautiously optimistic. Drink. Thanks. Great to have you.
Go Navy.
Yep.
Appreciate it. All right. All right. Where'd he go? Where'd Spicer go? He's ditching me? That was it? That's all we get with Spicer? I think Meredith needs to come in. You want to come say hi? Come sit down. All right, so Sean Spicer came by. He helped me with the Heritage Live read, and then he ditched us. He had to leave. He was supposed to sit here for a while with us. So you get Meredith, the famous Meredith. You say hi to everybody?
Hi, y'all. I will not be here for long, so.
So what's it like being married to Larry?
I'm not answering that question. This is the first time I've listened to you broadcast in a really long time.
She never listens to my show. She doesn't listen to my radio show in the morning. She doesn't watch the town hall show. She doesn't listen.
Sometimes I hear it.
She hears it down the hall sometimes because I do it from my home studio. Why is that? Why do you ignore your husband's work, his vital work? Look at all of the people who watch me
I know, it's
on
amazing.
a daily basis.
It's amazing.
And you why? Why do you disrespect me like this?
I get the Larry O'Connor show all day. Do I need any more?
You lucky woman.
All right. Have fun, chat.
That's it? How do you feel about tonight's election?
What's the drinking?
Cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic.
Drink, everybody.
I left my mule over there.
You want to look at the latest results?
Yeah, we can look at the results.
All right, let's take a look. We got New Hampshire is half blue right now. Why is that? Let's see. Oh, it's only 3% in. All right, so that's not good, though. We want to see Trump sort of shock the world in New Hampshire. Right now, it's just 3%. So who knows if that means anything. South Carolina has been called. The Palmetto State is now in the column for Trump. They gotta reset the totals here, though. Hang on. What are we looking at? 28. That number's not right. Come on, Decision Desk. If you want to play along with the electoral results, you can also go to townhall.com and click on that Decision Desk. We also have the live blog coming. I'm making everyone dizzy right now, aren't I? Yeah. All right, so Vermont's the only one that's been called officially. Indiana, Kentucky, and South Carolina have been called officially for Trump. And we got Virginia, Georgia, and Florida with early returns leaning to Trump. Thank you, Meredith. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye.
There goes Meredith. She did crush it, didn't she? Good. Stay on target. Oh, we're good. We got plenty of time before the grand poobah. Kevin Roberts of Heritage Foundation joins us, but we got some time to talk with the chat and check in with everybody. Hello, RM Voigt. Are there a lot of people who are excited to see Meredith? Bet for America is hanging with you. Drink for drink. There it is. Everyone say cautiously optimistic for Bet for America so we can take a drink. We got it? All right, let's do it. Cautiously optimistic. I am enthusiastically optimistic. Michael Teeter for $5. Thank you for the super chat. $5. You love the bow tie, and so do I. Did you salute my bow tie? I feel like everyone should stand for my bow tie. Been praying for our country all day. Trump 2024. God bless you, Michael. We appreciate that super chat. Oh, we got a lot of super chats. All right, let's catch up on super chats. Susan Cummings, I love that picture. World praying, U.S. praying. We are praying. God will answer our prayers tonight. Praise Jesus. Trump Vance 2024. God bless you, Susan. We love your prayers. We really, really do appreciate the super chats. Francie with that gorgeous dog. Buck 99 super chat. Drinking games say Kamala and drink. Oh my God, I can't do that. Are you kidding? I gotta put some sentences together. Speaking of putting sentences together, let me try to do this without Sean Spicer leaning over my shoulder. Regardless of what happens in tonight's election, you know the left is going to do everything it can to sabotage conservative reforms. American patriots need someone fighting for them in our nation's capital. I mean, other than me, every day. Someone with the plan and the courage to take on the deep state. Fortunately, there is such a group. It's the Heritage Foundation, where we are live right now with your election party coverage. There's a lot of people drinking back there, isn't there? Oh, and hors d'oeuvres. We got hors d'oeuvres. All right, I'll have to get some finger food a little later. The Heritage Foundation is dedicated to promoting conservative policy solutions, pushing back against dangerously liberal policies, and restoring the American dream. They've been defending our country for over 50 years, and they're ready to serve as your voice in Washington. If you'd like to be informed on their critical work, visit, heritage.org/join. Oh, thanks. I was just kidding. Oh, is that a little jet? Oh, no, that's for the, what is this? Is that pork belly? Oh, a little pork belly. Oh, yeah. What's your name? Denitza. Thank you. No, that's perfect. I got pork belly in my mouth now. I've told you we were going to be at a party. And now I'm chewing in your ear. Go to heritage.org/join, heritage.org/join today and become a part of what Heritage, the work begins tomorrow. And Heritage is going to be leading the charge on a lot of this stuff. That's why we're here.
Hey, Larry, let me jump in real quick with some breaking news. We have West Virginia, which has just gone for President Trump, and we've got Jim Justice winning the U.S. Senate election in West Virginia.
Oh, that's a flip, ladies and gentlemen. We have a flip in the Senate, West Virginia. We sort of expected that because West Virginia is, in fact, one of the reddest states in the country. But there's the president. West Virginia has now been called for President Trump. And let's look at the Senate. There you go, Jim Justice. And that also means that Baby Girl, the bulldog. Is it Baby Girl? Is that the name of that dog?
Baby dog.
Baby dog. Is it Baby Dog? Odd name for dog. I mean, it's no Jeb. Baby Dog's no Jeb, although Jeb is no longer with us. So are you worried about Jeb? Is Jeb going to fall again? Good. Meredith is going to fix Jeb. So there it is. We got Indiana called for Virginia. We got and West Virginia both called for the Senate. And right now, Tim Kaine with 7% is looking to win re-election, but that's very early in the state of Virginia. Down in Florida, Rick Scott seems to be that's 53% of the votes are tallied, and we got Rick Scott looking at a 10-point margin. So that looks pretty safe right now in the Senate. But that's a flip. If everything else holds, at the very least, that seat goes to the Republicans, which would make it a 50-50 Senate. But we're also looking at Montana a little bit later tonight, swinging over to the Republican column. And, of course, Ohio is coming on strong, as is Pennsylvania for Republicans. So we'll see what the final Senate numbers are. Thank you for that, Kevin. We're looking at the Electoral College right now, 4.4 million for Trump, 3.6 million for Harris, with Electoral College 32-3. 32-3. What's that? Oh, short rib on a little polenta cake. All right. Should I? All right, let's do it. Short rib. Look at that. That looks good, doesn't it?
While Larry is chewing his hors d'oeuvre, I'm going to jump back in real quick with another little tidbit of information coming from Decision Desk HQ, embedded over at the townhall.com site. As of 7:25 p.m. Eastern Time, Decision Desk HQ is giving Donald Trump a 61% chance to win the election.
Thank you, Kevin. 61%. Where is that on the page? Let me find that. No,
I
it's not
found it
here.
on there. Decision Desk tweeted it out.
All right, according to Decision Desk HQ, right now, the way the results are coming in, the way the exit polls are, right now, 62% chance for Donald
61%.
Trump. 61%. All right. Well, that's something. That's something. How are you guys feeling? We're feeling good over here right now, I think. I'm liking it. All right. Let's keep going to our chat here. What's going on here? Ocean America Bully UKC has made it. Oh, you know what? Honestly, we haven't done much without you because we were worried about you. And now that you're here, the show can begin. I'll be honest with you. Let's win this. Mavericks Ace with a $1.99 super chat, all for the bow tie. Thank you. What am I drinking? I'm drinking so over at the bar. The bar's right over there. Wait, right over there. And they have a couple of specialty drinks. This is called a Swing State Spritz. It's basically an Aperol Spritz. And I'm not drink. Usually I just drink wine, but I like how the color. It's just it looks good on camera. So that's what we're drinking. The other drink they've got Kevin Shanholzer with a $10 super chat. Thank you, you true patriot. I appreciate that, Kevin. The pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much for that super chat. Angela with $4.99 in a super chat. You have 3 kids in Georgia, all 30 plus, 2 Democrats, 1 new registration, never voted. All 3 voted for Trump. Let's not get giddy yet. I know. You know what? I didn't want to be too overly optimistic, or for that matter, cautiously optimistic. Pray continually. I have been praying a lot today. But let me just tell you something. I'm usually very sober and very conservative about elections. I'm not even cautiously optimistic. I expect the worst, and then I'm pleasantly surprised. But I did a deep dive on this stuff yesterday. I looked at these numbers. I looked at the way the polls were. I looked at the number of new registrations. That's something that we talked about with the guy from Heritage Action. And the fact that all those new registrations were not showing up in any of the polls. I was looking at, and also the cultural shift that's happened in this country, where the stigma of publicly supporting Trump has started to lessen so much that you've got celebrities, you've got sports figures, you've got NFL players, you've got musicians, you've got people from all walks of life saying, yeah, I'm voting for Trump, but I'm loud and proud about it. I feel like things are so different in this election. And here's another thing. In 2016, oh, thank you. Roasted fig? Oh, roasted autumn fig. We'll get to that in a minute. In 2016, if you think about it, why did Trump win? Other than we found Hillary Clinton incredibly odious and we didn't want her anywhere near the reins of power. But we were also pissed off. We were pissed off in 2016. And the best way to tell everyone in the media, in the establishment, in Washington, our neighbors, our family members who were driving us nuts, the best way to show that we were pissed off was to vote for Donald Trump. Well, let me ask you something. After COVID, after Biden, after being called garbage, after the media, after the assassination attempt, after the prosecutions of Donald Trump, after the lawfare, after trying to censor you and silence you on social media with the Hunter Biden laptop story and with COVID-19, with all of those things, aren't you a little more pissed off than you were in 2016? I think people are a little more pissed off than they were in 2016. All of those factors tell me that I think this is going to be a decisive win. I don't even think it's going to be close. In fact, I'll say this. If it is close, I don't think Trump has a chance. Because if it's a close, things will happen. I don't think it's going to be close. And you want to talk about being pissed off. Take a look at this report from CNN about an hour and a half ago. This occurred. This was looking at some of the exit polls, not about who they voted for, but about what motivated the votes. Take a look.
It's a pretty dour mood in terms of the way people feel things are going in the United States. Nationally, only 7% of voters say they're enthusiastic. 19% say they're satisfied. Look at these numbers. 43% dissatisfied, 29% angry, 72% of the electorate nationally say they're dissatisfied or angry. It's a pretty
72% are either dissatisfied or angry. I'd like to say both, and I think that's another factor. Joining us right now, get in here. Kevin Roberts. For God's sake, this is your place. He is the president of Heritage Foundation. Thanks for hosting us. We're having a blast here.
Thanks for being here. You know, you're my favorite radio host.
Oh, I appreciate
I mean,
that.
really, you helped make my morning commute from the free Commonwealth of Virginia to DC a little more pleasant.
I appreciate it. We love doing that. And knowing that you're listening now, I should probably clean up the act because we're a little naughty sometimes in the morning. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. He's a good man. What gave you the idea to do this party, by the way, before we even get into the policy stuff and everything? Because this is awesome.
Look, part of taking a country back, which is why we do what we do at Heritage, is having fun when you're doing it. And you might have noticed over the last 3 or 4 months that Heritage has been in the news because of the radical left mischaracterizing things.
I wasn't going to mention it,
and
since you
we
did.
just decided that we're not just going to tell them to go pound sand. We're going to throw a party about doing that. So thanks for being part of it.
You should be handing out copies of the 2025 project as we go.
Oh, just wait. if it's a good night, oh boy.
You know what? Part of me wants Trump to do that. Like it is an acceptance speech, the victory speech. They just like, and by the way, I spent last night reading this thing finally, and we're all in on 2025 Project 2025. Speaking of books, though, this is awesome. I just got this handed to me by the author, Dawn's Early Light, Taking Back Washington to Save America, and that really is what this is all about.
It is.
Because Washington is the problem.
It is.
You got to take back Washington to make it work.
And that's the whole plan behind Project 2025, which is a longtime Heritage friend. We've done that kind of thing since 1980.
Single presidential election, Heritage does this. It's insane.
It's just that this year, because there's so much at stake, we decided to do it on a scale that was unprecedented. So we invited 110 groups to be part of this. If they do policy work in DC and they're conservative, they were invited into it. And I think that made it a bigger target. But the fact that
and also that they didn't have anything else.
That's exactly
they had
right.
To create a demon.
Yeah. And so ultimately they have given the radical left have given us some insight into the playbook they're going to use in the near term. And we've learned our lesson. When they punch, we punch back twice, and one of them not above the neck. And we, figuratively speaking, of course, this is in terms of policy and politics, but all of that to say, I am really optimistic about the future of the country because Americans want to wake up in a normal place.
See, what you just said, Kevin Roberts, this is Dr. Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation. I feel like I've said this to you for the last, 2.5 years you've been in this position? That's not what I expect from Heritage Foundation, saying things like that and really fighting back and punching back. Heritage had an image for a while there, deserved or not. And you really have sort of changed the identity of this organization, not the ideas, not the conservative principles, but sort of how you go about doing what you do. Was that a concerted decision?
Very much so. And number one on my list. And I thought when I was talking to the board at Heritage 3 years ago about doing this, that we could take the foundation of Heritage, the policy work, the personnel vetting, the sort of vision casting into the future, and put it on steroids, to go on offense, as I like to say. And in other words, those two things are not incongruous. You can do really good policy work, but you can also say, we're not just going to sort of wait around passively for the next fight. We're going to set the terms of the next policy fight. That's actually, I think, the real genesis of this transition project, that we need to stop taking the narrative framing of the left and instead impose upon them through great messaging and great policy work what we want our framing to be. And that's what we're in the process of doing tonight.
So getting specific, and I'm guessing you know where I want to go with my conversation with you, because I know it's a passion of yours, and most people who interview you about this stuff, I don't think they're aware of this. Education.
Yep.
Education and our schools. First of all, this is a major component of what you want to fix in this country. I know. Tell people why. In terms of your background with education.
Sure. Look, I grew up, as many people did, a poor kid, and public schools were one of the reasons that I've been successful. But what I've seen, being of middle age now, is that public schools have deteriorated in the quality of educational attainment in terms of their misalignment with their own family's values. I'm not talking about conservative or liberal. I'm talking about sort of normal, common sense American values. They, as institutions, in other words, public schools, unlike when you and I were in school, Larry, are no longer capable of transmitting American values from one generation to the next. And so I'm in public policy because I'm an educator, fifth generation educator, poor kid, like tens of millions of Americans. I'm not special because of that, but I mention that because public schools are vital vehicles for prosperity. And therefore, in a policy sense, we got to change it. And one of the ways we have to change it is to get Washington out of the way.
Well, and that's obviously the follow-up question. What can be done and how quickly can it be done? Because I have, just like I heard presidents for my entire adult life say, yeah, we're going to get rid of the Department of Education, or we're going to reform the Department of Education, or we're going to strip down the Department of Education. And that it never happens. It never materializes. They freak out. They're terrified of teachers' unions. They're terrified of, I don't know what. What can be done and how quickly can it be done?
Well, to your point, education is top heavy. And so if we have 4 quarters, obviously constituting $1, and those 4 quarters represent what we spend on on education in America, 3 of them go to non-instructional jobs.
Unbelievable.
So if you really care about kids, care about America, almost every American does, obviously, including liberals, take those 3 quarters and repurpose them back to instruction, back to teaching kids. And the best way to do that is to get Washington out of the way, which is why, Larry, I'm so proud of my colleagues at Heritage, led by Dr. Lindsay Burke, who is the best education reformer I know, who don't just talk about ending that top heaviness, if you will, of the Department of Education. They don't just talk about dismantling it. They're talking about reforming it so that we can put local people, particularly parents, back in charge. I think that we're going to get the opportunity to do that starting next year.
Yeah, and there's a stomach for it in this town. You think that the people on the bill, not the people at 1600 Pennsylvania, because I think that if Trump wins, he gets it. But what about the people down here on this end of Pennsylvania?
About half of Republicans get it and are willing to fight for it. The other half talk a good game. But going back to your question about the purpose of Heritage, we exist not just to write white papers, but to help our policy making friends develop an appetite for good ideas. So those are our top 3 priorities: education, education, education. Because if we fix that, then we're able to tackle a lot of other issues.
Well, and we see what happens, young people who have been frankly indoctrinated with this just poisonous curriculum that they've had, the left has had control of for the last several decades. That's why people vote the way they vote right. And this is an important we need to reverse that ship.
It's vital. And what we're trying to do, as I explained to the few remaining liberal friends I have, is not is not convert public schools into quote unquote conservative schools. Right. I just want them to be the platforms they were when I was growing up.
We'll settle for non-Marxist schools. That would be nice. Yeah, exactly. Let me ask you, you've also, I think, taken up a vital role here in terms of reorienting how conservatives communicate our ideas. I know that the work that you've been doing with Daily Signal and sort of revitalizing and sort of giving it a lot more energy and well, maybe if you could describe how Daily Signal is now sort of its own separate entity, but still sort of connected with Heritage. Sure. How does that work?
This goes back to your earlier question about my intent on making Heritage be more on offense. Part of it is reforming, reorganizing, if you will, what a public policy organization is. It isn't just that we do white papers, but more and more, we have to be upstream of those public policy proposals. And to be upstream means we're not just doing interviews like this, which we're grateful for. We got to control some of that to the extent that we can. So we've taken this outlet that's always been a subsidiary of Heritage, and we've given them their own wings, the Daily Signal, not to compete with, say, friends like you.
No,
but and I know that's not why you're asking
this
the question.
Is not a zero-sum game.
Exactly.
We're all
to enlarge the pie.
That's right.
In the same way we've done that with public policy organizations. And the real benefit is we're able to get more people seeing common sense news covered objectively by great journalists, really intrepid investigative journalists, which is where we've really placed our investment.
Well, and my origin story comes with Andrew Breitbart.
That's right.
And he was so frustrated that guys who had your position in the past never got that.
Exactly.
They removed themselves from the media and they said, oh, that's a game for the left. We won't get into that game. No, it's our game now. And I think this election cycle proved that with the way the media sort of bypassed by the Trump campaign.
Yeah,
a lot of
and
things.
Just think about where President Trump has spent his time with one-on-one interviews in the last month of the campaign.
They were all upset he didn't do 60 Minutes. Now, looking back, probably a smart idea to go on Joe Rogan instead, right?
It's brilliant. And once again, Donald Trump's intuitions about these things, his instincts about these things tell us where we need to go as a movement. And so what we're trying to do at Heritage is institutionalize that, if you will, in the best sense of that term, which is to say, how do you scale this? How do you turn this Daily Signal into a standalone journalism entity that has some of the best journalists around? And I would say they're well ahead of schedule because Rob Louie, our mutual friend and my colleague, are doing such a great job. But this is the key thing. People in the audience who are looking for encouragement beyond election results need to look at the conservative media landscape and understand we're actually winning there. And this election, if in fact it goes the way I think it will, which is to say good results, will be proof of that.
What's your overall feelings tonight, looking at what you're looking at?
I was just poring over Virginia results, not just because I live there now, but because I think it's going to be very telling about how the election goes. And thus far, it looks like, as Governor Youngkin said at the Salem rally over the weekend, it's close. If Virginia's close, Trump wins this running away. Republicans get 53, 54, 55 seats in the Senate. They expand their majority slightly in the House, and then they got to get to work.
Then the work begins. All right, Kevin Roberts. This is a blast. It's fun to have events like this. Yeah, it really is.
Thanks for being here.
I appreciate you not shaving too, because it gives me, like, Meredith gets down on me about my scruff, and I can say, well, Roberts, look at
You're
Roberts.
sharp, man. Don't
Thank
take
you.
that from
It's
her.
about somebody. Thanks, man.
God bless you, brother.
We appreciate it.
You bet. Take care.
Kevin Roberts, boys and girls. He runs Heritage. He's sort of a good man, and really, see, this is not your. Hey, hold on, Roberts. Kevin, I forgot to ask you something. Hang on. One more question. Do you mind? No. Sorry. This is important. This is actually, I should have asked this first. The perception of Heritage has always been, oh, that's a DC thing. That's for like rich people. That's for old people. That's for, you know, the blue blazers. And I know you're trying to change that image too. But Heritage is active all across the country, right? Everyone who's watching us actually around the world. How can they sort of get plugged in with Heritage, and what can they do to sort of be connected? You know
Thank you. Regardless of where you live, it's likely that we're working directly in your state. And so go to heritage.org, look at our policies, but also very importantly, heritageaction.com is the entity, the sort of more political entity that, because of state lobbying laws, is present in nearly 30 states. What are they doing? They're pushing for education reform. They're pushing for better tax policy. They're pushing to get the Chinese out of buying land.
Getting stuff done.
Getting stuff done.
Yeah.
That's the key thing, is that we don't just write. That's just the beginning. That's like hitting a bunt single and standing on first base. We want to get that runner all the way around and score at home. And that's what we do in terms of getting bringing the policy to life.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Thanks, man.
I meant to ask
Take
you
care.
that later. All right. There we go. All right. There we go. So now you can all be a part of this. You can all actually join as well. It's heritage.org. In fact, let me read this again real fast, because they deserve it, right? Oh, and we're almost at 8:00. That means we're going to have some more results, or we got some more polls closing, and hopefully we'll see some more returns. So let's get to that in a minute. But as you just heard from Kevin Roberts, president of Heritage Foundation, regardless of what happens in tonight's election, the left is going to do everything it can to sabotage conservative reforms on Capitol Hill, in the court system, protests. You know, they do it all. We know that. American patriots need someone fighting for them in our nation's capital, someone with a plan and the courage to take on the deep state. And there is such a group. It's the Heritage Foundation, our host tonight for this pre-election night, election night party. The Heritage Foundation is dedicated to promoting conservative policy solutions, pushing back against dangerously liberal policies, and restoring the American dream. They've been defending our country for over 50 years, and they're ready to serve as your voice in Washington. Please join them in their fight to save our country. Activate your Heritage Foundation membership over at heritage.org/join. Heritage.org/join. There it is right there. There it is right there. All right, we're at 7:50 now. So and here we go. Oh, look at that. Steve Yates.
It's a pleasure to join you.
Slide in here. I want to make sure you're in the shot. We only did the one camera. We were going to do two cameras, and this is the easier way to do it. I want to get the title right.
No problem.
Senior Research Fellow for China and National Security Policy, Asian Studies Center. Boy, are you going to be a busy guy if there's a change at the White House.
Yeah.
People, first of all, I want to start, when you talk about China, people are still frustrated that we still haven't gotten clear answers on COVID,
yes,
frankly.
Yeah.
And I know we want to move forward, but there needs to be some kind of accountability there. And it seems like this White House has not been interested in getting the answer.
No, because it really got politicized. And so they weren't really interested in what the facts of the matter were. And I think that's what's very, very different about China. I worked at the Heritage Foundation in the 1990s before I went into government. And I think the biggest change now is, number one, people don't buy the bet that if we just engage in trade, things will just work out.
That was the mindset back then.
It was.
And it was bipartisan.
And I was a part of that.
And also, I appreciate you saying that, because it's okay to sort of learn.
There's an
and
old
say,
saying about getting mugged by reality.
Part of that was because it did work to a certain extent with the Soviet Union. Engage, bring free market ideals to them, freedom, perestroika, glasnost, the whole thing, Gorbachev, is ultimately it all crumbled. Why was China different? Because free market principles sort of were introduced. Everyone's making, or a lot of people are making money over there. Why didn't the rights and the freedoms sort of trickle down, if I can use that term?
I think it's because people bought the long-term Kissinger bet that China was really on our side to balance against other problems. And what they were willing to forget was that the Communist Party of China, one of those C's really does stand for communist. And they never changed that. And the Chinese never really made any bones about that. We willfully looked past that.
Yeah.
And it's the decades of not seeing measurable results. It's the sin and then adjusting the behavior. Making the bet, I think it was probably worth a try. Not everyone agrees, and it's easy to look back on it now.
Yeah.
But now I think there's a consensus that things have to change. But really, especially with COVID, and I would say today is my late daughter's birthday. She was killed by fentanyl a year ago. And I think COVID and fentanyl add on to, I think, what millions of Americans see as this is not a government with which we can have normal relations.
Yeah.
This is not just dealing with some ordinary country around the world. This is also not just the State Department and foreign policy. It's in our homes, our families and communities, in our education, our markets. And I think the big challenge for the next president is how do you really push back inside America and have revival and then contain those malign influences overseas without war?
Yeah, Trump seems to talk about China for the most part from a business, trade, and economic standpoint. He was and the tariffs and what he's proposing there. Is that enough? Is that enough in terms of?
I think it's where you have to start. And I think even if you're just thinking strategically about what do we do to try to compete with, overcome China, try to contain those malign influences, invest more in our military, well, that means we have to make more here at home. We have to have economic renewal at home. We have to have a fundamentally different energy policy. If we just take China on now, while we have one hand tied behind our back, we're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Unleash American energy, deregulate, and we've got better, safer options.
So the American people may then want to say, okay, I agree. And we don't like the slave labor over there. We don't like that they're an authoritarian. We don't like that they're building all these ships to try to blow our submarines out if they can find them. We're with you on that.
Yeah.
But how much is my iPhone going to cost?
Yeah.
How much are my sneakers going to cost? And can anyone answer that question? Can anyone say, okay, well, here's the impact?
I think that they'd have to be honest that we spent 50 plus years showering money, technology, and opportunity into China. We allowed this over concentration. I would argue that was a mistake no matter what other country that is with that one country, but it's a bigger mistake now that Xi Jinping is running China in a different direction. It will cost something to undo that mistake. We spent all that trillions and trillions of dollars making China the manufacturing platform of the world. I think if we take a fundamentally different approach to our own hemisphere, we get out of our own way on a lot of these rare earth and other kinds of things that are very valuable in this chain, we can cultivate alternative manufacturing platforms. But will it be free and fast? No. The transition will cost something. But I would argue it's already cost us hundreds of thousands of lives with the fentanyl trade. It's already cost us 1 million lives with COVID.
Yeah.
So we're in this now. And we have to change.
It seems tawdry and frankly immoral to talk about those issues in the context of, well, I want my cheap goods when I buy an electronic product.
But that's the brass tacks.
Yes. How likely is it that China does make a move on Taiwan in your estimation, given all of the saber rattling that we've seen?
Yeah. I've spent almost my entire adult life coming and going to Taiwan. I lived there for 2 years in the 1980s, and there hasn't been a day in my life where this subject hasn't come up. And so I actually think if there's any rationality in Beijing, even under the Communist Party, they know their options are not great. They're not going to attack and hold Taiwan, but they can bully, they can threaten, they can try to boycott. And that's what they're doing. And that's costly and risky. And so I think that they're looking to disrupt. They could at any time do the worst things, but it's easier to destroy than it is to actually hold that territory. So we face that, I think, crisis on the horizon every day going forward.
Do you think that China is, without a doubt, the biggest foreign policy challenge that the next president will face?
I do.
Even knowing what's already going on in the Middle East and what's already going on in Eastern Europe?
I know. Well, terrorists have touched us in our homeland. One of the big threats against the president's life came from the Iranians. And so it's very, very true there are other threats. But nothing compares, I think, in American history to the reach the Communist Party has in compromising elected officials, compromising our institutions, and getting Americans to turn against each other so that we hollow ourselves out without them having to rise up.
Given the foreign policy team that Donald Trump had 4 years ago and seemed to be in his orbit for what could be his next administration, how confident are you that they get it and they're going to approach it properly?
I think President Trump identifies China as among the main reasons he didn't win re-election. I mean, if there isn't a COVID pandemic, we don't change the way we vote in a fundamental way.
So even if he's just after them for revenge, that's a good thing.
And I think he might be like that and thinking about they did this to me. Plus, I think he really feels the visceral reaction of hollowing out of our economy, hollowing out of a generation, whether it's numbing their brains on social media or killing them with drugs or whatever it might be. I think he has a feel for that. But certainly his foreign policy team 2.0, there might be some different people and different faces, but I think they're very focused on getting this right.
I'll be honest with you. This has been way too an intelligent and deep conversation for my audience, and certainly for me. So we better leave it there. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to join.
I appreciate it, and that's again part of why Heritage is so good, because they got guys like this who can actually boggle your mind and actually answer questions succinctly. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is Steve Yates by the Heritage Foundation. All right. So good Lord, look at that. We've hit 8 o'clock. That means we've got, you know what? I want to stay with you. Kevin, can we stick together here just for a few more minutes as the next round of polls close? Because I'm already seeing some states here from decision desk being called. There are states that we knew would go Trump's way, but let's bring them out here because we've got 8 o'clock. Polls have closed. They've already called Mississippi, Alabama for Trump. That adds to South Carolina, West Virginia. Yeah.
I think you need to refresh this page.
Oh, all right. Hang on. This is at townhall.com, by the way. You can get this page going yourself if you want over there at Decision Desk. Let's refresh it. And, oh, you're right. Oklahoma. Where'd you go? Meredith is from Oklahoma. Very exciting. All right. We got Oklahoma where the wind comes sweeping down the plains. We got, Florida is in. Florida is a done deal. That took a little while. I guess they wanted to wait for the panhandle states. 55.2% in Florida. Wow. An 11-point lead right now with 67% of the votes in Florida. Isn't it great to have an election night and we don't have to worry about Florida? Isn't that amazing? Think about the money that was saved by not having to send money. Oklahoma's in. We can always count on Oklahoma. We got Missouri in. Fantastic. We got Kentucky. Tennessee is new in there as well. And West Virginia. All right. Blue states. Oh, Maryland. Maryland has been called for Kamala Harris. That's where we live. We live in Maryland. Sorry about that. I did what I could. Massachusetts. That looks like Rhode Island right there. So right now, the totals in the Electoral College, 105 for Trump and 31 for Kamala Harris. All right. So we're about a little over a third of the way to 270 to call Donald Trump your next president of the United States. So there you go. Let's look down at the Senate. Have we gotten anything else called in the Senate? Rick Scott has assured his reelection in Florida, and now he begins his attempt to become the majority leader in the Senate. As we've already told you, West Virginia has gone, and that is a flip. A Democrat seat that had been Joe Manchin is now a Republican seat with Jim Justice, and then the other Senate races were expected, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Indiana. So that's the state of play in the Senate. Any news on the House? Let's take a look here. This is a little harder, so I'm going to zoom in if I can, especially in some of these Virginia districts. Is that Virginia 7 right there? Hang on. No, that's Virginia 1. Rob Whitman is looking like he's already gotten re-election, so they've called that one. These two, Virginia 7 right now. Oh, it's only 29% in, but that's way too much for Eugene Vindman. And then Mike Clancy also actually a little closer in Virginia 10. That's with 83% in. Oof, he's got to make up some ground there. Those are two hotly contested races right now in Virginia. Virginia 7 and Virginia 10 right now, both leaning Democrat. But I don't see any other House seats that stick out right now that were on the bubble. We shall wait for some of those.
Larry, I've got a quick little tidbit on Virginia here.
We got
from our buddy Greg Price. He says, reporting in Loudoun County, that kind of college-educated suburb outside of DC, outside of Fairfax County, has shifted 8 points to Donald Trump compared to 2020.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. If that holds, that's so this is the most populous county, or actually Fairfax is the most populous, Loudoun is the second most populous county, but it is where a ton of votes are sitting. And between Loudoun and Fairfax, that's sort of how Virginia is won. There's no way Trump's going to win Loudoun or Fairfax. He could win Loudoun, that's possible, but he's not going to win Loudoun or Fairfax, generally speaking. But the way Glenn Youngkin won the governor's seat for the first time since the Republican governor won in 2009 in Virginia, the way he won was not to win Loudoun and Fairfax, but to cut into that lead, to whittle away. And then he swept the lower part of the state and the western and eastern part of the state. If Trump can make up 10, was it 10 points you just said, or 9 points in Loudoun?
An 8-point swing.
8-point swing. Sorry. That's huge, though. That is a huge, huge swing from Biden votes now going over to Trump. That's the formula, if not to win Virginia, at least make it close. Remember, Virginia went for Hillary Clinton by 5 points in 2016, 10 points for Joe Biden, we're told, in 2020. If he can get better than 5 points that he got, 5-point loss to Hillary Clinton, if it's a 2-point loss in Virginia, that should tell you what all these other states are going to do. That should tell you what we're going to see from Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin when those polls close. All right, one other thing I'm seeing here is North Carolina. Oh, it's only 7% of the vote, so that's all right. Understand that a lot of times these early returns you're seeing are going to be the early votes that get tabulated fast. Democrats always do better in the early voting. The question is by how much. Right now, it's about a 10-point swing. You'll remember in 2020, it was through the roof, scary at the very beginning. Then when the day of voting precincts started to announce, then things started to fall in place for Donald Trump. And it looked really good for him going into the wee early hours of the morning 4 years ago. And then, well, we know what happened the next day and the day after. It was around 3 in the morning, if I remember right. Things started to turn the other direction.
One other interesting thing here, Larry, is that Miami-Dade County went to Trump.
Miami-Dade County went for Trump. Well, now we saw it go for DeSantis when he ran for re-election in 2022. But boy, Miami-Dade County has completely changed its political affiliation now. Did you hear that? Miami-Dade County went for Trump. That is phenomenal, considering where we were, just 8 years ago and 12 years ago. And say, in 2008 and 2012, the entire state of Florida went for Obama. That is amazing. That is amazing. All right, that's your latest return. Is there anything else that switched here? I just refreshed it one more time, and I don't want to miss anything.
I think that's it. Can we get
That's
some?
about it. That's the latest. Yeah, let's look at our chat room here. What's going on with our chats? Breathing in fumes for $5. Thank you so much for that. Breathing in fumes. Love you, Larry. So glad you're hosting this historical election for us. Best way to spend a nail-biting few hours. Well, I just want you to know, we're winding down our coverage here. We know that there are a lot of other options for you, and we wanted to bring you sort of the pregame, the tailgate experience, and bring in all these great experts who have been part of advising these campaigns during this election session here from Heritage Foundation, and then talk about what the new administration might be looking like and what the priorities are going to be and how they can fix things here. But we're starting to wind down our coverage because we know there's a lot of other options out there for you. And frankly, I got to wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow for my radio show. But we're going to be here for a little while longer. Thank you. Jim Fisher for $19.99. What a great super chat. Enjoy Go Trump. Thank you so much, Jim. That is fabulous. I really appreciate that. That is a great one. Karen Lasiak in California. Oh, that's Canadian. California dollars. No, we don't have a different currency in California quite yet. Canadian dollars. What's the exchange rate on that, Karen? It's fine. You know what? We're going to buy some Tim Hortons coffee with that. We appreciate it. For $10. Thank you. And you know what? I'm going to stop saying all the mean things I say about Canada and how they don't know how to play hockey anymore since they won't win Stanley Cups anymore. Just for that. I will no longer say that. Elliot Berry for $10. Is it too late to buy stock in Chicago Original Board Up Services? You think there's going to be some more windows shattered? No, what you want to do, you should get on the ground floor for Washington, D.C. They've already boarded up all the businesses in downtown D.C. In fact, that's the other reason we're going to wind things up, because I don't know how much longer we want to stay down here at Project 2025 Central. If things start to go a certain way, we're going to want to get out of here. But thank you for that. Mary, Mary is a dear friend of mine that I've known for 30 years, and what an amazingly generous super chat. Mary, you can't do that. You're in retirement now. You need that money. Buy a round on me. Love to all the O'Connors. Love Mary. Oh my gosh, I'm going to start crying. Thank you. You know what? Cautiously optimistic, Mary. And I tell you something, years ago, Mary and I used to work in the theater business together, and we were both Republicans. We still are. And on election nights, Mary is also a diehard New York Yankees fan. Go figure. And oftentimes, election day would coincide with the Yankees in the World Series. And she would secretly make a pact with God that she would forego a Yankees World Series, because after all, they have 78 World Series championships, I believe, at this point. She would make a secret pact with God. If the Yankees don't win the World Series, at least give us a Republican president. And sadly, it's too late to make that pact, Mary. Or did you make the pact this year? Maybe she did. And that's why we're sitting on potentially a big victory tonight. Mary, that is so sweet. Did you? That's sweet. You know what, Mary? We're gonna stop. That's very cool. Thank you, Mary. All right, COD rocket clips. I have no idea what that means. Oh wait, is that Call of Duty? Call of Duty rocket clips. COD is Call of Duty. I'm gonna go with that. We are with you all night, Larry. Let's go, Trump. Fight, fight, fight. Thank you very much for the $4.99 in the super chat. That is fabulous. We really mentioned. Oh, and listen, we don't solicit super chats, but we certainly appreciate them. It's very sweet of you all, and we love interacting with our super chats. All we ask of you all is some likes. Give us some likes, give us some more comments, and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. The likes don't cost you a damn thing. Come on, you cheapskate, give us a like. All right, I don't know why I'm getting hostile on you now. I think it's the bow tie. It brings out the worst. But press that like button. Thank you, Mary. Mary is reminding everybody. Look at that. That's quite an image there with the top hat, too. Don't forget to press the like button. Let's do it. We will do it. Kevin, we're going to be live tomorrow at noon, right?
Yes, we will. And one other thing, Decision Desk HQ has just given Donald Trump a 72% chance of winning the presidential election.
There you go. Decision Desk HQ now says Donald Trump has a 72% chance of winning the election based on what they're seeing, based on the results, based on some exit polls. And look at this. Is that Connecticut? Oh, well, it's less than 1% of the vote in, but still, you don't ever see Connecticut with a Republican in the lead, not since 1984. So even with just less than 1%, let's take a screenshot of that, because you very rarely see a Republican leading in a presidential election night coverage in Connecticut. It's only with less than 1%, with 1,700 votes in. I don't know what part of Connecticut they were counting, but that's something else. Oh, and then we've also got Texas. Early numbers coming in from Texas. 16% in. We got Trump with about a 3 percentage point lead in Texas. Georgia with 36% in. Wow, that's a big number. That is a very big number, isn't it? Georgia right now, Trump's looking at a 13-point lead with 30. That's not a small number of returns. That's 36% of the vote in. Now, maybe it's highly concentrated rural votes that are in. I don't know which precincts are counted here, but that's a very big number for Georgia, which should be a very tight race. North Carolina is still looking blue right now, which I do not like, but it's only 8%. It's only 8%, so let's not get too worried about it. Let's see what the Senate race is looking like right now, specifically Texas. All right, with 13% in, it's neck and neck. It's 1 percentage point right now. And again, we expect there to be early votes leaning in the Democrats' favor, so that's not bothering me right now. Over in Pennsylvania, the Senate race, Bob Casey, that's less than 1%, so we're not going to worry about that right now. Ohio, 24%. That's Sherrod Brown. All right. Well, again, that's early votes getting counted first. Let's see what the day of looks like. But 16 percentage points, that's a pretty big number with that many in. And with only 3% in, too soon to tell there with Alyssa Slotkin. That's fine. Oh, and did Bernie Sanders, is that who the purple is up there in Vermont? Was Bernie up for re-election? Oh, good old Bernie. Bernie Sanders, your nominee for president for the Democrats 4 years from now. He has won his re-election bid there in Vermont. All right. I think that's good. I think we're good. What can I tell you, guys? This has been fun. We really appreciate you being here with us tonight. But we're going to wrap things up, right? Unless is there any other things that we need to get to here, Kevin? I don't want to end prematurely.
Nope.
You're sure? Have you grabbed any video that we want to leave people with?
Nope, I think we're good to go.
All right, we're good to go, guys. There's a lot of options tonight. There's a lot of stuff going on. I know I'm going to be checking out a lot of different streams as well. But do me a favor, keep a tab open at townhall.com. We've got our live blog right there. We got Katie Pavlich, we got Guy Benson, we got Matt Vespa, is Spencer joining the live blog tonight too? Spencer Brown, of course, one of our great columnists now. A whole ton of people who are going to be contributing and getting you up to speed and giving you analysis as we fly along. Plus, all of Kevin's video work that he's going to be doing, that'll be flying up into the live blog. So keep that tab open, and it will give you all the Decision Desk HQ tabulations that we've been tracking for you tonight as well. But that's going to end things here for us. That's 2 hours and 15 minutes. We've been live with you. We really appreciate you being with us tonight. Make sure whatever stream you're watching tonight that you in the comment section tell everyone they should subscribe to Town Hall. Just spam the hell out of them, and keep that tab open at townhall.com. Thank you to the Heritage Foundation for hosting us tonight. We've had a blast, and we'll see you tomorrow at noon with our live stream. Hopefully, we'll be showing you Donald Trump's victory speech, and we're going to be showing you all of the video of the meltdowns on MSNBC and CNN. And I really want, you know who I really want to see? I want to see George Stephanopoulos crying in a huddled little fetal position on the set of ABC News. That's what I want tonight, and we'll show it to you tomorrow at noon as we go live. My name is Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.